Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Card Party Time. It's a Wednesday night, the weather's getting nice, the lockdown is ending in a couple of days, and the most exciting thing I can tell you is that before we went on air, good old Aaron was wearing an X-Files Letterman jacket, all prepared to get into the zone of the episode tonight, but then he realized, it's a little bit hot. So as he stood up to take it off, all I could see was 100% Aaron tummy. Oh, and I thought, oh, mate, the truth is out there. I love it. Oh, dear. Now we just have to check out his Twin Peaks. What can I say? How you going, old son?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, rocking along. It's all very, very exciting. We have got a gigantic show tonight. You know how we said, okay, originally it was supposed to be an hour. That never happened. Then an hour and a half. That never happened. Now it's meant to be 2 hours, and we're struggling to stay within that. And chances are we'll probably go over that as well. So, but it's the last show before lockdown because key thing is next week, for all we know, all you people are just going to bugger off and leave us. They're going to say, mate, we can go out on the town and partay. Why on earth would we want to stay around watching us two dorks? So there you go. What do you reckon, old son?
Like Sydney, it'll be a party at Kmart.
Absolutely fantastic. So, and now the key thing is that, as we know, the lockdown's finishing, but the store, as in your store, Aaron, isn't opening yet for another week or two. Is that right? So, what exciting things have you got planned for the big relaunch?
Nothing. No, I think as far as we can understand, it's going to be about a week after, or a week and a half after the hospitalities have opened, when the population of Victoria is at 80% double vaccinated, then retail can open, and that's looking like first week of November, so week after Halloween. But it could be earlier if more people get on the vaccination train faster, so who knows. But that's what I'm looking at. Till then, still doing online sales, still doing click and collect, still looking at collections if people drop them off, still doing trades if people are happy to work stuff out online. And yeah, that's how we've been for the last 2 months, really.
Exactly right. So, yeah, Christy, no, unfortunately, you will have to wait another couple of weeks, unfortunately. So there you go. But good old Carol, all the way from Ballarat, is prepared to watch the show. Yeah, none of this going out and having fun and seeing friends and going to have coffees and stuff. Stuff that. Got to hang out with the dudes. Absolutely love it. And I agree with you, Christy. It is rats. I tell you what, when I get to go back, I feel like I've been on long service leave, unpaid long service leave, in fact, because I haven't been in the store for so long. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right. Well, so we need to kick off the show tonight. And as always, we like to start with a bit of the old treasure in the suburbs. And this is a bit of a special one, if you don't mind, umpire, because you wouldn't believe in a million years whose collection we're looking at tonight. It is Spankin'. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. But it's not that Spankin'. It's actually this Spankin'. So there you go. Very important we get our Spankins all sorted out. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yes, I know. When you're spanking, you've got to get it 100% correct, or there can be some technical issues, can't there?
Absolutely. Very, very cool. And Ange, you've obviously joined the party late, and not for another 2 weeks at least. We don't know the exact date yet. November the 5th is being bandied by the government. It could be early depending on the vaccination rates. Cocky. Very good. All right. So this is now when we had Spankin' in episode 5. Now I've got to show a bit of a video with this, right? When we had Spankin' in episode 5 of this show, a lot of people I know haven't been watching the show for that long. So he actually showed us a lot of the large props and the collectibles that he actually had in his home. But the one thing that we really didn't focus on was actually the toys and other collectibles he has. And so we just sort of bypassed it. So, yeah, as you can see, but wait, there's more. So he actually has glass cabinets chock full of mint condition toys and products covering a large range of genres. So what makes his collection really interesting is the fact that it is actually so diverse. And you've seen this before, haven't you, Aaron?
Yeah, he's got an absolutely awesome collection. And as you said, where some people will collect Star Wars or Star Trek or just sci-fi or something like that, he really is a connoisseur of the whole movie genre and collects a bit of everything.
Yeah, and importantly too, he keeps a lot of his stuff mint in box as well. And of course, he's a big one for autographs. So you can see you got Christopher Lloyd's autograph there. And if you need a big ass friggin', it's almost 1-to-1 scale DeLorean, which is insane. And of course, he has a large collection of things that cover just sci-fi and fantasy, including your labyrinths and dark crystals. And all the stuff is all on display in his cabinets. And it's an absolute treasure trove of things to look at. And there are a lot of things that are worth a lot of money even today. So, for example, like we're looking at the trading card sets that he's got here, but he also, as part of his props that he collects, sometimes the props that are legitimate screen use ones, and of course there's reproduction ones as well, but he has a lot of boxed toys from way back when as well, which is really impressive. And this week I got him to send me some photographs of some of the things that he has in his collection, which even I didn't know he had. So aside from the Corgi helicopter there, he's got a lot of board games, original board games, and some of these are actually Tall Toys issue. So that alone, and you'll know this, dude, are worth a fair whack of dollars, yeah?
Yeah, usually Tall Toys stuff adds a bit of interest for local collectors. Close Encounters, he bought that off of me. So there's a few bits and pieces there that are really interesting and very desirable to collectors of different genres.
Yeah, I would class you definitely as a close encounter, no doubt about that. Now, we did show this in episode 5, but of course, Spankin is a huge collector of posters as well, has a couple of thousand of them, if I recall. And of course, he's got a whole number of them autographed as well. So, as I said, for those people who never saw episode 5 of the show, you can go back and rewatch it. It's all about Spankin and who he is and the things that he's created and bought over his journey. But I thought I'd just want to recover this off again because it's a very, very impressive collection and well worth checking out. And of course, yeah, the Tucker poster has the autograph from both George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, which is particularly very, very groovy. So there you go. So good old Spankin is our treasure in the suburbs of the week. What do you reckon, old son?
That's pretty amazing. He could almost open a museum.
Yes, Yoda. Yes, Gavin. He does have the. Who produced the Yoda? That was the one-to-one scale one.
There's a few different ones. I think one of his life-size ones is one of the older ones. I can't remember who did it, but you've had Sideshow do full-size Yoda, and Master Replicas, and a couple of other people have done full-size Yodas.
Yeah, I think it's the Sideshow one, and he does have the one-to-one scale Grogu as well, which came out a couple of months ago, which looks really, really cool, I've got to say. Carol, actually it is, and that's the thing about it, because there are a lot of people with a lot of great collections, excuse me, and it's one thing to say, oh, I've been to a person's house, I'm seeing everything they just bought from Toys R Us last week, and you go, that's great, but, it's not that great, really. But the thing with Spankin stuff is he's very, very particular about what he buys. So the quality is really, really good. And he has a lot of vintage stuff as well. And it was hard to sort of get some of the footage of the cabinets of the vintage Star Wars toys that he does actually have still mint in box. And you would have seen all the 12-inch figures all still in their boxes. That alone is something you just don't see very often anywhere. So
when you look at his... When you look at his cabinets, they almost are curated to the level of a museum where each one is themed and fits together, and he uses great layout where you have big and small pieces, and the empty space is just as important when you're displaying stuff as the positive space. And he is a master at displaying his stuff appropriately.
But of course, as we all know, he had the little dude back in February. The little dude is now sort of crawling around the house, and I'm sure the little dude is just busting his chops, ready to open shit up and just ruin the value of just about everything. So there you go. All right, we need to move along. Very, very cool. Yes, you are right. It is spectacular, and it is absolutely inviting and amazing. Very, very cool. All right, so now let us move on. There's a question here from Colin. Did you get the message from EB Games saying how the Mandalorian Razor Crest release has been delayed until February 2022? Did you get that?
Yes, I did. Everything's been delayed till February 2022, hasn't it?
Who cares? Just chuck shit on the floor. I mean, no one's going to know what it is. That's a Razor Crest after it got blown up. So there you go. Completely screen accurate. What can I say? All right, we need to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff done. Time for this. Very cool. So what are we chatting about tonight news-wise?
Well, there's a few different things that have been announced this week. And we were talking before the show that DC dropped a whole lot of their trailers with Batman and a few other different things. And we could probably spend half an hour talking about that. But because this is a collectible show, we won't. But we've got some stuff related to the Batman movie and everyone's favourite pop vinyls, and then Halloween as well. So it's a spread of stuff here tonight.
Very cool. Christy, I like it. There goes your Christmas prezi. If you've got enough money, you can buy one of us too. And, what can I say? We look very good mint in box. What can I, or not. Very, very cool. But if you take us out of the packaging, and you just got to do it slowly so you can save at the moment. All right, we're getting into some Halloween stuff because Halloween's coming up very, very soon. So what do we got?
Well, Halloween Kills, the sequel to the original Halloween has come out this week. I know some people have seen it and some people haven't, but we won't talk about the movie. We'll talk about the collectible. This is the new Michael Myers figure that has been released for Halloween Kills by NECA. And it is quite a good figure in that it really captures the look of Michael in the movie, and it really gives him enough weapons and implements of mass mayhem that appear through the movie, including my favorite, which is half a neon tube, but I won't tell you how that goes for the person. But you've got Michael in his overalls with knives and bats and other kids' Halloween helmets, masks. Then you've got some of the more unusual stuff. So the middle one there is half a fluorescent neon tube. So that's a great kill in the movie for when you get to see it. And it's great that you can get it from a toy company and recreate these horrible moments at home on your toy shelf. What do you think of it, Dags? You're not as big into horror movies as I am.
Nah, doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. Just it's me. I'll put the slides in because it's your show. But move along. Not even remotely interested. There's a couple of really good comments coming up here. Here we go. Greg has asked, "Where's the rip it off the card action figures?" Oh, we could make so many. All I would want to do is just get the one with Aaron and just open it really. Just get the slide chair, get a bit of a whiff of the 2021 air. That's a bit wrong, isn't it?
Well,
what do you reckon?
Basically, you could probably, for my one, go and buy a Buddha from somewhere and just pretend it's close enough. It's closer than some of the action figure likenesses that you get these days.
We need someone out there to 3D print action figures of us. Christy said, and I don't disagree with you, Christy. You're not accepting used goods. Yes, you have been. I have been used and abused, but Aaron, he's still got a bit of play value going with him, so don't give up on him just yet.
I'm so used and abused. I'm at Greg King's garage sale in the free trolley.
I like this one. It looks like Shatner after re-entry. Well, you can talk about your own re-entries, Mr. Ange. So there you go. Very, very cool. And just to finish off the Halloween thing, you got a skull. I have no idea why this was even there. So
that's actually a mask, a Halloween costume mask from Halloween 3, because they do a bit of a homage to Halloween 3, where the 3 silver shamrock masks do turn up again in this movie.
Very cool. All right, now cop this for stupid kids. So as of this week, 2 Batman trailers came out. The Pattinson one, was that his name? Robert Pattinson one, and the one with the Michael Keaton. So at the same time, so you got 2 different Batmans played by 2 different actors in the 2 different movies made by the same company. How bloody stupid is that? There you go. That's I'm off my soapbox now.
One is from the Flash movie, and they're doing Flashpoint paradox with alternate dimensions. So I guess that's why. I don't think the Robert Pattinson Batman is going to turn up in the Flash universe, though. I don't know. But go on. I was just going to say, but we're looking at the Batman toys.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, just quickly, the thing is, the average person on the street is going to not understand any of that crap. To them, it's just like, oh, here we go. I mean, comic book readers will get it, but the average dude on the street will go, and I'm one of those dudes who go, eh. But you are right, looking at the Batman. At the very least, I think it's a good title, The Batman. So yes, very, very cool.
Well, you're a Batman fan, and you're in the toy community and the sci-fi community. So if you're thinking it's a bit off, then you're right. The people who don't really follow all of the different comic book lines are really going to wonder what's happening. But let's have a look at the toys. So they've released the first wave of the Batman toys from the movie, and I actually think they look pretty good. They're fully articulated, so they can do all the different poses. They come with stands, so they're not going to fall off your shelf. That's the first wave, which has Catwoman, who's Zoe Kravitz, and then you've got the Batman, and you've got the Bat Cycle. The one that I'm wondering about is the Riddler. The Riddler is obviously a reimagining of the Riddler. So his costume is totally different from what we've seen before. And I imagine if we were in the Nolan-verse with the Bale Batman, that this would kind of be the reimagining, sort of a realistic version of a Riddler that they might give. I prefer my Riddler in spandex with question marks all over him. But then again, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so question marks work for me. What do you think of the Riddler like this, Dags?
So in Australia, it's Lycra, not spandex. So you just want to clarify that. I like the idea of it because I think if you're trying to do a modern retelling of the story, having a dude running around in a green jumpsuit like the Jim Carrey version is just silly. It's just stupid. We've had some really, really serious representations of bad guys, especially with Joker and both Jokers, like the Heath Ledger version, as well as that movie Joker.
Yeah.
And I think the time has come to say, okay, if you were going to have a bad guy, how would they look in real life? And I think that what they've done, you're right, it doesn't fit any of the molds that we've had in any of the previous incarnations, but I think it will work for the story. And for that reason, I think, yeah, it works for me. So, yeah, even though it's not traditional.
If all the Batman villains were getting round and playing a game of cards, like in that classic version, a classic episode of the animated series, that version of the Riddler would be talking to the Bane that was in the movies as well. It is the more realistic sort of real world version of how they would go, I would think.
So Joel, just so you're right, the 1960s Riddler is fantastic, the Frank Gorshin version, but that probably wouldn't work in a modern day film today. And of course, I hope that in this version, the Riddler is a bit more nasty and a little bit more intense. So, I mean, I actually like the Riddler from the TV series Gotham, and he never wore the green outfit at all with the question marks. But anyway, we'll sort of move on. So anyway, so this is the Riddler. I mean, when I saw this, I thought, who's this dude? I didn't even twig it was the Riddler, but there you go.
I thought the Catwoman looked pretty good as well, where it keeps the integrity of the look of the character, but moves it forward to something that a cat burglar might actually wear rather than actually a cat suit. And she is, again, superposable in a lot of different positions. So I imagine this being a pretty popular wave. I've got to say, from the original announcement and conception of this movie, where I was like, what do they think they're doing? The more trailers I've seen and the more that's come out about it, it looks better than I thought it was going to be. So it'll be an interesting movie to see, and I think the merchandise is going to be pretty good. They've also done the first vehicle, which is the Bat Cycle, and I thought it looked pretty good as well.
Hang on, I put this up for a specific reason. So David said new Riddler is just COVID question guy. Well, it's very funny. If you look at the Riddler and you look at Catwoman, they're both wearing COVID masks effectively, and Batman isn't. So, yeah, I thought I'd just chuck that in. And regarding the bike, yes, I will put the bike in. I just needed to rearrange the slides a little bit. And the thing that's going to irk me about this freaking movie is not another Batmobile. It's like, how many effing Batmobiles do you need in these freaking movies? So, yes, but anyway, that's my grizzle.
Well, do you know what that means? It means anyone that got the Eagle Moss Batman collection of Batmobiles and collected them week for 4 years now doesn't have the complete set of all the vehicles because, like, everything's been outdated with the new versions. So there you go.
See, now I've just been insulted by one of our one of our audience, right? I've got to say, I'm heartbroken now because, look, Jess has said, give me the Jim Carrey's Riddler any day. What is wrong with you, Jess? Seriously, get your head red, woman. Oh, my God. Oh, jeepers creepers. So there you go. Very, very good. Now, yeah, I love it. Very, very cool. Now, we've got a new segment. As if the show doesn't have enough new segments as it is.
Well, everyone knows our love of pop vinyls, and we have a bit of a joke about some of them because some of them are bad, and some of them are cool, and we know there's a lot of people that collect them. So we're just having a playful mock. But this is the new segment. It's the useless pop of the week, because once in a while you see a pop and you think, who came up with that? Who is the audience, and who would buy it? And I think you can get a bit of a hint of what it's going to be by what's not covered up by the flash useless pop of the week. Did you want to reveal it, Dags, or did you want to have a word about it before we do?
No. Well, as always, once you pop, you can't stop. And in this case, that's definitely the case. It's this.
Fruit Loops. Follow your nose. Sam Toucan.
Where you're following your nose to? The dentist, because these things would be destroying kids' teeth like nobody's business.
I have to say, I think it's cool that you get a little bowl of Fruit Loops with it, but I would rather have a Sam Toucan, not a box of Fruit Loops, as a pop vinyl. And there are people who collect, food memorabilia, and it is very hard to get. And there are people that collect the cereal toys and stuff like that. But I don't know if producing new items based on old food packaging is really going to be that successful. So I might be missing it. This might be a pop to get because so few people buy it. It's rare down the track. I don't know. Do people think that's a cool item, or like me, are they like, who's making these?
I mean, you clearly are not connecting with the audience. So this is what the audience have had to say, right? So Gavin said that. Christy said that. Jeff's said that. Ange said that. Thomas said that. Do you see a theme going on here? And this will be the pop. Sorry, this will be the pop that ends up in Aaron's collectables in a couple of years' time, and he'll be putting like extra zeros on top of the more zero.
Well, we have got the one connoisseur here who you missed his comment, who was Greg King, and he just says, "Oh, cereal." So
yes, I did say that one, but yes, very, very cool. Greg's coming up in a second, anyway, so that's all good. And you're right. Once you've started that one, all the others will jump on board, and before you know it, yes, exactly right. Another 4 Greg King's useless bloody things. Yes, exactly right. So very, very good. Now, with that in mind, from a useless pop, now this has become a bit of a segment that's been sort of happening for a period of time now. Greg King's cheaper things, and there's an ongoing story, as you well know, for people who've been watching the previous episodes regarding Aaron and his and Greg's purchases. So, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, tonight we're firing on all pistons because we're looking at stuff we've got. We're ordering new stuff. We're talking about emails and communication that we've got from sellers. So there's something to tick every box here, isn't there?
Love it. So guess what happened, kids? Go for it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, we ordered a Jumanji board game. It was a replica of the Jumanji game from the movies. It was beautifully finished, and it was like a prop replica, 100% with electronics, sounds, magnetic pieces. And we got a $2 Snakes and Ladders game. We paid about $81 for that, and it is truly what you would find in the reject shop for $2. Like, you know, buy it for your kids so you can take it down to the holiday house, never ever be played again. So what we got was Trivial Pursuit Unhinged, and I didn't even bother emailing the people who sent this to me because they'd taken all the links and the product off their website. So I just went back to PayPal and got an instant refund. So went and got a refund of the $81, and it was quite easy. I just went to PayPal, and it took about 5 days for them to confirm, yes, it was a total ripoff, and there wasn't any intent to send me anything else. I didn't have to return the first item or anything, so I got a refund. But
hang on, I'm going to cut you off. Does this mean that Trivial Pursuit Unhinged is now going to end up in Aaron's Collectables pride of place with the extra zeros, just like your Fruit Loops pop?
Well, I was thinking these will all accumulate in like a box somewhere, and at the end of the year we can have a dodgy Greg King chook raffle among viewers, and they could probably end up with all the crap that we bought through the year on this, or not.
Hang on, you got to put the old as seen on. You can't say as seen on TV because we're not on TV, but as seen on Rip It Off the Card. You get someone to come in and say, "I saw a heard on Greg King's cheaper things that you actually had a what do you call the Jumanji game?" And you go, yeah. I said, "Oh, dude, I'm keen to buy that." So Aaron runs out the back, and all of a sudden he's putting extra zeros on top of the price. What do you reckon?
It's a real genuine screen used prop from Rip It Off the Card. So
yeah,
I think it's the only way that game's ever going to be worth anything.
Totally agree.
Yes, Angelo, including the mask.
Very, very cool. Just give me a second. I just got to press a couple of buttons. We just had a bit of a crash here because there's just so much exciting stuff going on. So what happened after that whole, son?
So I got the refund, which was $81. And like the gambler that wins at the races, instead of pocketing it and going home, I doubled down and bought more crap to keep this segment running. So the first thing I bought was the headpiece to the Staff of Ra. So we've already seen from Dave's purchase a few weeks ago, Spankin got the really dodgy fertility idol, but this one guarantees to be made of real metal, and it can come in 3 different versions: the gold highly polished version, the Ravenwood bar version, or the antiqued version. And I decided to go for the gold highly polished version. So this was only $29 out of our $81 refund, and I used a 10% off code, and it actually worked for a change. So at the checkout, I went through got the gold version that I was after, put in the 10% discount code, the 10% came off, and I've paid through PayPal again. And I think it's fantastic. They show you even there, you can get the gold colored eyes or the red color eye in the middle of the headpiece, and both of them are genuine Chinese plastic. So that's absolutely fantastic. Hopefully, I know it's not going to be a super high-end replica. All I hope is when I get it, you can look at it and go, yeah, that kind of is a good version of the headpiece to the Staff of Ra. I am not holding out much hope, but there you go. That was the first item I used on our refund from the Jumanji game.
Just so long as you remember to you turn it around, look at the back of it, and remember to take back one Kadam to honor the Ark who's I had the quote in my head, I've forgotten it now. Honor the God whose Ark is. Oh, geez, I've forgotten it. Yes. So anyway, got to honor some gods. What do you reckon?
Yes.
Sorry, what was that?
Honor some gods. The
honor the Hebrew God whose ark this is. Oh my God, it's such a hard line. And according to Jess, we are actually on TV. Oh, that's very, very cool. We'll be sure to crack the screen.
If we're on TV, this is like one of those telly selling ads. Like, wait, there's steak knives, but we've got even better stuff coming up because I've bought something else, which I think is a really nice collectible, but it's a bit out of left field for me. This is fantastic. This is a Disney Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter cuckoo clock. Now, these usually retail on, I think, what's the site? I know it usually goes for about $450, but this one is $41 Australian, $41.07 actually. Shipping worldwide, payment via PayPal or credit card, 100% money back guarantee. Buy two, get shipping free. I wasn't desperate enough to order two of these. Take a look around. We're all mad here. You probably are mad if you're buying things off of this site. This is a fully sculpted Alice in Wonderland cuckoo clock. Handcrafted. I can't read anymore because Dags has changed the card. But you get the idea.
It looks good. Move on.
It looks pretty amazing. And it is one of those pieces. If it turns up looking like that, I would be very impressed. But I think it's going to be like the Jumanji game. I'm going to open up what I get, and it's going to be like a cheap $2 digital watch or something like that. So we've got some exciting stuff on its way, hopefully.
I like this from the Vial. It took me a while to work out what he's talking about. A latex glove with an imprint of the headpiece would be fun to show people. So in other words, he's doing the thing with Tot. Yes. That was kind of funny. Actually, you get a hand with just it's like it's been burnt in, and there you go. There's your headpiece. So there you go. I love this. Ange says, "Oh, that looks awesome." That's the thing, Ange. They do look awesome, and that's what's selling them in the first place. But of course, as we've seen, what you're buying and what looks awesome and what turns up is not always the case. So, and Ange has just said, yeah, he's not holding his breath on this one. So, very, very cool. But that is a very, very groovy looking clock based on current the success rate so far. There's a good chance it's not even going to look anything like this when it turns up, but very cool.
So we've bought both of these. They're all 100% money back guaranteed and PayPal. And what I was going to say, if any of you who are watching are on Facebook and anything dodgy comes up on your timeline, feel free to message me or Dags, and we'll have a look at getting it with our next PayPal refund to see what actually turns up. So we're quite happy to do that because that's what this segment is all about, trawling the internet for stuff that's too good to be true and showing you why it is too good to be true.
See, I look at this and I just ask that age-old question, what could possibly go wrong? So there you go. Now, this is actually what we're going to show you is harking back to the stuff that was going on last week. This is such a story, but just to finish off, what's going on with this one?
So people who've been watching the last couple of weeks will know that we've had a back and forth with, I think it's C&J customer service over the Clone Trooper helmet because they've been particularly helpful with their responses. And we were up to the point where they had actually watched the Rip It Off the Card episode where we did the little review in there. And they were having a bit of a go at me for saying, not a lot of people watch you, only 10 people do. And so I sent back to them, hello, dear friends at CJ Customer Service Team. The video only had 10 views because this is not YouTube. This site I sent you to was a mirror site where I was able to upload a backdoor virus into your system. This has given me access to all your files and hidden itself where your tech team cannot find it. I have your customer data information along with all their emails. I will be sending them Greg King's product review of your item, and also a step-by-step link on how to install, how to initiate a PayPal claim for items that do not match online descriptions listed by naughty sellers like you. Have you had any luck in resolving my issue or reissuing a refund? All the best, Aaron. Now, I would just like to point out, that's all bull. I didn't send them to anywhere that would install a virus or do anything bad to their system. I'm just playing with them because I've got someone who's emailing me back. Almost straight away, I got a reply. Hello, Chief. Don't be a menace. What you have done is bad, very bad thing. Our techs did find your virus immediately and deleted it. Erased all our email database. You cannot access it. You cannot use it. Why would the sole Greg King say all this to happy customers? Do not say us bad seller. Then in capitals, do not get happy customers to do PayPal claim. This would be bad for you as well as us. Best you not mail us anymore while we solve your problem. We will try and resolve this quickly as we can, the SJ Service customer team. So I hope everyone thinks that is as funny as I do. And I will reveal what else I wrote back to them after that next week.
So the key thing out of this is, for some reason, why would the soul, as in like the cool dude Greg King, say this about our happy customers? So when we saw that, we said, oh, Greg King is just more than just a cheaper thing. He's now a cool dude.
So Greg King is a bit of a soul man. And this does go back, Dags. I don't know if you realized their last email where they were talking about Greg. They said, who is this soul Greg King? Who makes him an expert on what is good and what is bad? Yeah. Who made this soul an expert? And for some reason, through their translation or through what they think will work, they are now calling him the soul Greg King. So I always thought he was a cool dude, but now he's endorsed as a soul from the CJ customer service team. That's fantastic, I think.
Totally agree. And you are right, Greg, about happy customers. Like, yeah, right. So make of that what you will. But there you go. So we don't have just Greg King watching this show with his own segment. We have the soul. I mean, he should be like dressed up in his Doctor Who outfit, you know, with a saxophone. He's got the sunglasses already, just playing in a bar late at night, the Doctor Who theme and all that. Ding-ling-ling. I can't do it with a saxophone. Invent your own sound effect. And that is soul Greg King there. And
when they say the soul Greg King, it kind of reminds me of the Big Lebowski or something like that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I agree, Thomas. It is hilarious. Yep, go on.
We have retooled this segment table of thrift, because so far nothing really has been that cheap and nothing really has been that thrifty. So we have retooled it, the table of shame. And we've cleared some slots. We've got rid of the mask and the Jumanji game, which we've put underneath Greg King for his garage sale. I've actually taken the books that we bought off of there because they passed with a 2 out of 10 rather than a crinoid thumbs down. We still haven't got the first item we ordered, which is a mystery box transformer. We still haven't got the mystery box Halloween toy, which they guaranteed they'd have me buy for Halloween to either keep myself or give to a good friend. And we've just ordered the headpiece to the Staff of Ra on the 8th and the Alice in Wonderland cuckoo clock on the 12th. And I'm telling you, so far, everything's turned up in a postal bag. And that cuckoo clock better not turn up in a postal bag, or it is going to be like a pile of rubble in the bottom when it arrives. So that's where we're standing with Greg King's cheaper things. And what a fantastic segment it's turned out to be.
Indeed. And I like this one from Ange. The soul abides. Absolutely love it. So there you go. And yes, it is a story that just, it's the gift that just keeps on giving, unlike the items that just haven't turned up yet. All right, so that's the soul Greg King, the coolest dude in the universe, next to Aaron, because I don't really factor into this. But we must move on to yet another cool dude. And, of course, it is the Vile File. Now, it's very funny. Someone on YouTube actually wrote a question and actually asked, who is the Vile? And, of course, I had to just respond back and say, the Vile just is. That was it. That's all I wrote. There is nothing more to be said. He just is. So very, very cool. Anyway, what are we talking about tonight?
Basically, one does not simply walk into Mordor, and one does not simply reveal who the Vial is. Tonight is a bit of a different one. We like to keep the Vial file fresh and different. And this week, the Vial has been sending us a few things from the past, vileness from history.
With that in mind, the Vial has actually said a lockdown. We can plan, rip it off the card at the convention. It's like, yeah, right. now we're planning conventions. Very, very cool. Here we go.
So tonight's a bit different. It's black and white. It's vintage toys from the Vial Vortex, which I guess the Vial has reached back in time in some kind of Sith time vortex, and he's sending us toys from the past.
So, Colin, I'll go with this one. Colin, a big shout out to Anita and Renee, who apparently listened to the show on replay and love the Vial File segment, as you should, because who could not dislike the Vial File? I look at that kid in the picture there, and I think that looks like a baby photo from somebody. So, unbelievable. And you're right, Jess is just creepy. That's right. You think it's going to get better than that? I don't think so. Let's move on, shall we? Look at that. What have we got a kid here for?
Well, look, what the Vial has done has shown us stuff that is currently available, and then he has shown us the same product that was available in times gone past. Now, this is a baby piano player. So it's a little toy you can get for toddlers, and if you want to encourage their interest into music, and apparently if kids get into music young, it helps to develop their cognitive senses and they appreciate things like music more. So this is the current kind of little player piano for kids. Vial, Lord Vial, what have you found for us? Wow. So in the past, some company took this idea and they combine the two. So there's a baby piano toy where they have actually put the piano toy into the baby. Now, it reminds me of something out of, I guess, one of those movies like The Color of Space, where you get those warps that like combine two things together. Very Lovecraft. So you imagine that baby playing the piano and some kind of spatial warp comes through and the baby and the piano get combined together. Now, this is a real genuine toy.
The worst part is it's electrical and you don't want to know where the electrical cable goes when you plug it in. Dear.
So I couldn't work out the brand that was on the neck section. It looks like Fisher Price, but I was like Googling Fisher Price baby pianos, and all I got was the regular version, not these super creepy versions. The Vial has outdone himself on finding a piece like that to share from the Vial Vortex.
Yeah, when you say you're playing with dolls, it has a different connotation, doesn't it? Eh? So hang on, this is a good one from William. Yeah, it's alive. Yeah, absolutely love that. All right, we move on.
The Vial also sent us this, which is a picture from an 80s piano toy. Now, at first, when you look at it, it doesn't look really too bad. But have a think about what you're seeing for a second and what the picture in the mirror should be and what the picture you're actually getting is. And then you realize that this is a demonic mirror possessed by a demon girl who can look at you through the mirror one way and in reality the other way. So another very creepy player piano toy.
So based on that, so you're looking in the mirror and you get the reflection that does this, right? And of course this head turns, but this head doesn't turn, and you go, oh, that's just not right. So that is quite, Luke's got it. So yeah, very, very cool.
That's like something, you watch the movie like The Ring or something like that, and weird stuff's going on that's just a bit jarring when eagles touch.
Well, it did for Aaron because he was collecting and selling stuff back in the when he was a kid. But
the Vial actually told me he would like that girl as a young Sith apprentice, and you can understand why if she's got that kind of evil power. But I do like that it's kind of juxtaposed where you've got this pretty little girl playing a little girl's toy piano, and then just by having a smiley face looking the wrong way, it suddenly makes it creepy and evil.
Yeah, exactly right. And as Joel said, yeah, you can't unsee it. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Very, very cool. I like that from Dave. Yeah, it's Twilight Zone meets Poltergeist. But yeah, it's very, very cool. When I first saw this picture, even I didn't twig. But yeah, you are right. They've obviously said it doesn't matter if it's not true. But of course, that's how it was in real life. So yeah, very, very cool. Oh, get a load of this.
So I know we've got a 10-second delay, but this is a toy from the past that fits a figure that is more recent. So while I'm talking about it, if anyone wants a guess of what this reminds the vial of, go for it. So this is an old toy from the 50s, and it's basically one of those toys where you push the back and the eyes and the tongue bulge out. He's in like a black cloak, and he's got some kind of, it looks like a love heart. I didn't work out what that was, but he's wearing a love heart. It looks like a little Eggman with bulgy eyes and a pointy out tongue. And I tell you, like if I was a kid, that has to be a horror toy. That isn't something that you want to play with where the eyes bulge out or anything like that. And once you see what the vial has said, this is a toy that was made in the past for something in the future. So it's very, very creepy because once you see what it is, you can tell this is what this toy was made for. Does anyone know or anyone want to have a guess of what it is?
Yeah, all right. So Anne just said the Mondo Show. I have no idea what even that how to even pronounce that. Lucas just said it's creepy, and yeah, it kind of is not the most appealing things at all. Pinocchio eyes, make it that way you will. Looks like one of the sad old potatoes at the bottom of my pantry. Oh, that's just spanking. What can I say? There you go. Vintage stress ball. I love that from Mika. Yeah, smack the shit out of this. Yeah, I love that. This Jessa said the Fifth Element. I think. Yeah, I don't think so. No one's got any idea, by the way. I'm just filling in time. Snowman playing table tennis. Fifth Element aliens. No, I don't think so. What is it, dude?
Okay, Dags. When the vial sent you this, could you see the resemblance?
What, to me or you?
No, to what the character actually is.
Nah. No,
okay, let's go to the next slide because it is obviously Clytus from Flash Gordon. It's got the same tongue, it's got the same eyes, it's got the same black robes, but it was 40 years before Flash Gordon came out. So the vial has reached into the vial vortex and found the toy of a figure that wasn't going to exist, a character that wasn't going to exist for years and years later. And once you see that next to what they did in the Flash Gordon movie, you can see that the little heart is a love letter to Aura. She probably has boreworms in there or something because you know how she likes them.
Indeed.
But there you go. That's a vintage Clytus from Flash Gordon toy that the vial has managed to.
You know what? I think you've been smoking a few too many of your own Greg King's Cheaper Things segments. When you sent me through these pictures, I thought, what the hell's he got here? It's like, even I couldn't put two and two together. But anyway, you look at this. Thomas has gone, wow, and Joel's gone, interesting. And I reckon the way you're saying interesting is like, interesting. Yeah, I've got no freaking idea what the hell he's on about. And I agree, Colin. Yeah, really? No. So there you go. I think some of the other answers were far more enjoyable, but very, very cool. All right, we move on.
Okay. And the last thing the Vial File is looking at this week is one of our favourites, Mr. Potato Head. And Mr. Potato Head has been one of those toys that has been around for a long time in lots of different forms. And they finally got ones that are very aesthetically pleasing, not scary at all for kids, lots of different versions of them in lots of different franchise, but it wasn't always that way. So this is an advert for the original Mr. Potato Head, and I don't know if people know this. When Mr. Potato Head was originally released, you had to supply your own potato because you would get the ears and the nose and the mouth and the body and the hands, and then they all had spikes, and you use them to make a real potato look like a human head. So depending on the shape of the potato, you could get all different types of Mr. Potato Heads. This wasn't so popular because Mr. Potato Head came out first during World War II and there was food shortages. So parents weren't too happy about their kids going and get potatoes, which they probably wanted to eat, and then violating them with eyes and nose and mouth and stuff like that. So Mr. Potato Head came out, and it shows on the back of the box there that you could use this on all different types of vegetables as well. And they had the concept of combining like Transformers into one mega transformer. You could put some corn, some beans, and a capsicum together to get like a combiner potato head that would rule over all the other potato heads.
So I just got to ask you a question. This is, I reckon, is quite funny actually. So the back in the 40s, you said, you mentioned about how the kids said that they had used real potatoes. So when the mother said to the kid, as they're sticking eyes and shit all over it, they say, "What are you doing there, little Johnny?" And little Johnny says, "I'm just violating my potato." Do you reckon even back then they had any idea what they were talking about? So I love it. Very, very cool.
No. So this is some of the original potato head made with real vegetables, and you've got like a cucumber man there. You've got a potato head, and it's a potato, Mrs. Potato Head, because it's got a lovely wig on, and you've got potato heads, and you've got like a corn dog head and things like that. What's interesting, the Mr. Potato Head toy didn't sell very well, and so for years it was then marketed as a cereal toy. So you would get your cereal, and you could get Mr. Potato Head parts out of it, like eyes and a nose or hands, and it was popular as that for a little while before they decided, if we market it with a fake potato, then everyone can play with it and parents won't get mad. But I've got to tell you, those kind of toys are not the kind of toys as a kid I would have enjoyed playing with. They're creepy and they're a bit sad.
Well, it's not very often you get to actually physically eat your own character. So yeah, can't say no to that. So there you go.
And just showing you the different things that Mr. Potato Head came out with. Now, we have to say the Vile's favourite Mr. Potato Head family thing is the Willy Burger. You can see on the left there's a Willy Burger. And the Vile actually wanted the Willy Burger to sit on his lap, but instead we've actually put the Tater Tot, which is one of the lesser known Mr. Potato characters. So Babu Frick has been given the flick, and he has got a Mr. Potato Tater Tot. In the middle there is a really weird Mr. Potato Head costume. Now, the Vile has sent us this as a kind of preview for what's coming up, because he is going to do a Halloween costumes and cosplay episode. But this is a Mr. Potato Head children's Halloween costume from Ben Cooper. And there is quite a creepy story online where a guy was stalking a girl and he was wearing this mask. And so apparently he would ring the doorbell and run across the road and stand across the road staring at her with this mask on. And I've got to say, that's a horror movie right there.
I love it. So the Vile said he actually liked violating his potato head when he was younger. You can interpret that any way you like. Daniel has said, Moneybag Sullivan has said, I don't want to try that Willy Burger. Oh yes, Daniel, you want to try it. Take my word. Imagine you're about to open the packet. What are you doing? I'm just going to whip it out my Willy Burger. So, unbelievable. And that character down here, who that dude happens to be, I know you mentioned his name earlier. It looks like he's been chasing bar cars. So it's
that's a cute little tater tot. The Tater Tots were Mr. Potato's children that got phased out pretty fast because apparently they weren't that popular. I mean, look at that. How could that not be popular?
You know, dude, I don't care. Whatever. I don't need a history lesson. I don't care. And as the Vile said, how do you, Aaron? I'll get on Mr. Babu freaking off. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. But now we got to show you a little bit of a video. Let's hope it all plays. What's this?
Now, if you are a toy company, you've got an awesome toy, you want an awesome ad campaign to go with it, don't you? And I think they came up with a genius ad campaign. You know, a not at all creepy guy in a children's playground, playing with the kids on the equipment and then handing them out Mr. Potato Head toys. I mean, that's not creepy at all.
Works for me. What do you... The Spud Dude, absolutely love.
So this is a bit of a consumer warning. If you see this man in your local playground talking to kids, go and listen to the Webster record straight away. Good secrets, bad secrets. because that is just a creepy old guy who should not be hanging around children's playgrounds. And thank you for the Vile to be able to link episodes one to the other. Anyone who didn't see it last week, we had a particularly vile episode on records.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fun coming to my spud cup little kids. Yeah, they used to hand out boiled lollies. Now they're just handing out potatoes. So it doesn't kind of really work, does it?
So what I would say, Dags, if you've got like an advertising campaign like that, someone at the company would say, okay, let's change it to something that's not creepy at all. Let's try something different.
Absolutely. Anyway, we've got another something else to show you.
So this is what it was replaced with. So this is Mr. Potato Head shaving. And as you can see, he is actually just peeling the skin off his face. I would say that the people behind the marketing at Mr. Potato Head Company were absolutely freaking geniuses. First you have an advert that terrorizes kids and looks like you've got an inappropriate potato man in the playground. And then you replace it with like something from a horror movie where someone's got the razor blade and they're using a potato peeler to peel the skin off their face. So the Vial has definitely outdone himself by going back into the past and finding products and commercials that are very, very inappropriate.
Yeah, it's a bit wrong, isn't it? I thought that too. It's like, dude, the guy's peeling his, and lucky it's a potato and it wasn't like a tomato or something. And you just got this red shit pouring out everywhere. Yes, not good. So Mr. Potato Head's got more to say than
I have to apologise.
What? Hang on. Sorry, start again.
I have to apologise to the Vial. He didn't want the tater tot in his lap. So what I've put there is Willy Burger. So now he can play with his Willy Burger while he's sitting there violating things.
Well, you got your Willy Burger up here and you got Frankie Frank down there. So effectively take your pick, kids. So either way, what are you trying to say about these particular items, Mr. Aaron?
I am saying if we go to black and white in a sort of psycho kind of way, these items have been well and truly violated.
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievable. How insane is that, kids? Yes, a very, very, very cool. Unbelievable. So there you go. Different story. So appealing. Makes it easy watch. Still self-peeling potatoes. Well, they would have liked that back in the old pirate days, wouldn't you? Absolutely fantastic. All right, we need to move on. We are so far behind schedule. It's not funny, but it's always time for this. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's like? All right, cool. Ruzi, so what are we talking about tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, we've had a few obscure topics we've looked at with McDonald's and giveaways and stuff like this. So we're going back to the meat and potatoes, what everyone loves, having a guess at Star Wars stuff. There has been a particularly good crop of Star Wars stuff sold on eBay the last couple of weeks that we're going to have a look at because there's some amazing prices, high and low.
I like, instead of going back to your meat and potatoes, it's back to your Willies and Franks.
Beans and Franks. Beans and Franks.
Franks and beans, yes.
Here we have, now this is an interesting one, and I really love this item because I actually had this as my grade 4 pencil case. Now this came as a Return of the Jedi stationery set, and you would get the pencil case. There was a motion, like a flick motion pencil sharpener. There was an eraser. There was some pencils, and this was a stationery set you could get back in about 1982, 1983. So I had this, and I hadn't even thought about this from years, and then one turned up on eBay. So how much would you expect to pay for a vintage pencil case? And it's interesting, you can't read the auction, but it is actually full of pencils, not Star Wars pencils, just pencils.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny they called them stationary when these things are always on the move. For those who have never seen this before, just take a guess as to what you think what this item sold for. Don't Google it, don't cheat. Just take a bit of a punt, and we'll see how we go. Bit of fun and games for everybody. All right, so Joel said 250. Jess is at 300. Moneybag Sullivan has 25. And Natasha and her little dude is at 60. Gavin is at 34.50. Rob is at 5. Oh, dude, you got to remember this thing's like heading towards 40 years old, actually, in a couple of years' time. Joshua said 40. Andrew said 2. How's that for an interesting sort of contrast between prices? Mika said 30. And William has said 50. Lucas said the pen is included, I would say it would be, as at 200. Christy's at 85. Thomas is at 2,300. Oh, Thomas, that's really optimistic. $45 for Colin. Carol said 100. Good old a kilometrico pen. Yeah, no, remember those, the pens that never ran out of ink. $5. Good old Bob's joining us at 130. Jimmy, good to see Jimmy joining the show. It's at $45. Good old Grant's joined us at $50. Connie, all these people have just popped up out of nowhere for this segment. It's at $375. Violating Return of the Jedi is the vial at, and we'll say $200. So there you go. Remember, this was cheap as chips when they first came out. It's nearly 40 years old. Oh my God, that's absolutely insane when you sit and think about it, eh? So 38 years at the moment, if my maths is working for me. So Star Wars Return of the Jedi pencil case with the pen. I don't know why you got a kilometric pen there, because that came out much later. And the price went for a whopping $2.25.
So I think someone said $2 and got that one, didn't they?
It wasn't Greg King either, I don't think. Ange had said $2. But anything you want to say about this item, mate?
No, just I'd have bought that for $2.25. I think that's a pretty cool retro item you don't see very much. So you can still get stuff on eBay that you can think is a bargain. It all depends if you think that's the type of thing you want to add to your collection or not. For me, it holds a lot of nostalgia, though.
Jess, I agree with you. Where was Greg King, mate? He's too busy out freaking buying bloody potato heads now because he's in the zone for one of those. Maybe he wants a Willy Burger or a Frank. So there you go. Next item is, oh my God.
Now, this is another cool item from when I was growing up. And it doesn't say it here, this is an Australian item, I think through Toll Toys or one of the subsidiaries. But I'm pretty sure this jigsaw was available locally and produced locally. So this is a Return of the Jedi Jabba's Minions jigsaw. And it's got like Yak Face and Rees and Bid Fortuner and a couple of other classic pictures. These are the kind of things when I display my Star Wars collection, I like to put behind the figures. So if I've got a nice selection of Return of the Jedi Jabba's Palace figures, nothing like brings out like the nostalgia for me than putting a jigsaw behind them with a picture like that, kind of display them together. So this is a 1980s jigsaw. It's an original one. It is complete from 1983. How much would you pay?
Yeah, I like how it's all these background characters that no one really gives a shit about, but they would have done this when they were doing all the cast photos. The guys were all dressed up before they went on set. And the previous item, I like this. Ange said he changed it to $5 for the kilometric. It didn't matter. Ange, you still were beaten. Oh, I see what you meant. Yeah, it's all right. We'll give it to you anyway. So chuck it in for free. There you go. And Joel said he still got this. So we'll find out what it's worth. So, okay, kiddies, where are we? Moneybag Sullivan has said 5. Spankin, who's joined us, is at 45. Christy said 15. Mick has said 28. Natasha and the little dude is at 10. Carol's at $350. We're waiting for a dodgy jigsaw puzzle. Joel has said $1. William is at 25. Jess is at 233. That's a contrast, isn't it? $25 for Rob. Good to see Rob joining the show. Luke is at 100. Gavin is at 50 cents. Oh, that's just not complimentary at all. It is an ugly picture, to be fair. Anne just got with the $2. Connie's at 110. Oh, my God. Jimmy's at 25. 25 with one missing piece here. We can actually take one piece out for you if you want. Colin's at 10. Bob is at 60. Joshua's at 30. See, people have no idea, do they? They're just taking punts and guesses. That's what makes this segment so enjoyable. Violating all these aliens is the vial at 38. Thomas, 23rd. Mate, you just win lotto or something, Mr. Thomas. You're in the mood for spending some big dollars, son. So, there you go. And Dave said Yak Face always looked like he belonged to the Labyrinth or Dark Crystal. Well, yeah, he was one of the ugliest figures in the universe. What can we say? Very, very cool. All right, so what do we reckon it went for? Star Wars Return of the Jedi puzzle, 1983. Once again, nearly 40 years old. Is it worth squillions of dollars, as some people are predicting? It went for a whopping one bid, $1. There you go. And actually, Joel got this onto the cent, so maybe Joel bought this. I've got to find where it was now. So anything you want to say about this, dude?
No, again, I think it's another item that was cheap. I actually follow a lot of Facebook groups, and I've seen people put this on a Facebook group and sort of take offers and get, $50 to $100 for it. So sometimes, as I always say, if you're looking for stuff, you can sometimes find some cheap stuff on eBay still. It isn't all fished out. So you can always find something that surprises you. So what I've seen here, we've had 2 items that have very low prices. Is that going to be the theme of tonight's episode?
You know, the sad part is, after nearly 40 years, this thing is actually cheaper to buy now than it was when it first came out, as was the previous item. That's pretty sad. So, yeah, and you're right, Ange, the postage is more. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Once again, if you sold it for $1, why would you sell it? You might as well just hang on to it, and just throw it out the window or something. It's just not even worth the effort.
Well, so far on tonight's episode, you could buy two items from the 80s and still get change from $5.
Yeah. $5 was worth a lot more too back then. So there you go. All right, next item. Oh my goodness, 64 bids. Mate, people went to town on this one. What is it?
So this is a brand new PlayStation 4 Slim Star Wars Battlefront 2 edition with 2 dual-shock controllers. Now, a few of these have turned up online because PlayStation 5 is now out, so PlayStation 4 isn't the big thing anymore. But this was quite a rare item to get in that it sold out on pre-order. When it came out, if anyone knows PlayStation, the price went up, so they were worth more than retail. Do we think they have continued to go up, or now that PlayStation 5 is the new kid on the block, have these dropped back in value?
I like this one. So Joel said effectively 1,100. Jess has just gone, Sorry, Jess, that's not actually a bid. You can't actually type when you're actually bidding for something on the internet. Spankin has said 1,200. Colin said 750. Natasha and the little dude is at 900. Gavin is at 769. Moneybag Sullivan's at 1,200. Thomas is at 2,300. Mick has said 680. Grant has said 840. No cheap prices now. Lucas said 5,000. There you go. Andrew said $1 million. Exactly right. Joshua said 500. William said 800. I love to see Greg pop in $2 with this one. Jess has said 900. Connie said 1,400. Bob is at 950. Carol's at 650. Oh, I love it. The little dude is put in a bid at $680. I love it. He's only like 7 months old. He wouldn't even know what this thing even is. Violating Battlefront 2 is the Vile at 3,700. Jimmy said 500. Adzi has said 750. Rob is at 2,300. Christy's at 45. Oh, they're coming in thick and fast, aren't they? And so there you go. Very, 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 very cool. All right. So no, I think Christy's gone the cheapest, $45. I think even it's probably worth a bit more than $45, Christy, but you never know based on what we've seen so far. All right. So it's a new PlayStation 4, and Adzi has said that Becca said 300, which is fine. So PlayStation 4, Slim Star Wars Battlefront 2, Dual Shock. Oh, my God, how good is that? Will you get a shock by how much it's sold for? We will wait and see whether it's extremely expensive or extremely cheap. And you are right, yes, it did actually have 64 bids. So it was clearly very, very bit of competition going on. It went for a whopping brand new $4,060.
Makes me wish I'd kept mine in the box.
There you go.
So I'm usually a take it out and play with it guy, but the amount of use I've got out of it.
Don't talk about that. I mean the game. I thought we're talking about freaking Willies and Franks earlier.
So yeah, it's one of those things where even though it's been outdated and there is now a PlayStation 5, because it was a popular console in a Star Wars packaging, and I guess not so many of them stayed mint in the box, because what kid wants to keep their gaming console in the box and never play with it? That one's right up in value. That's really amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, who's violating the PlayStations these days is the Vile. He still has to add in a couple of $100, but he is good to go. How about that? Oh, I was like, holy crap. Oh, my goodness. Like, ouch. And oh, there we go. No, sorry, Luke didn't get it. He was just the Vile was closer. And there you go. Oh, Mick has gone. You've got to be joking. Oh, my God. That's mad. These people are going right off. Unbelievable. So there you go. Very, very cool. Yes, congratulations to the Vile. Very well done, sir. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, so we've got 2 more items to go. We are running so late. It's not funny. This is interesting. What do we got here?
Okay, for those who don't know their Star Wars, this is probably the rarest set of Star Wars cards ever made. These were put in Harper's Dog Chow. So anyone who is a pet lover, there are lots of different cards, and you get them out of cereal boxes, and you get them out of different foods. But this one was in those big bags of dog food. And why these are so hard to get is the promotion went for about a month, and no dog went through 12 bags of dog food in that month. So there weren't a lot of sets assembled. I knew growing up one kid who got a set, and that was because his parents owned a kennel. So they obviously got tons and tons of dog food. So I'm going to tell everyone now, you're going to be surprised how much these went for. That could be really, really low or really, really high.
And the important thing is that if you get these cards and you lick them, because they were like mixed in with dog food, you end up with a nice glossy coat. How good is that? So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So
the cards that are full of marrowbone jelly. So
Yeah, there you go. All right. Yes. How did you find those buying those cars? We're off. All right, $20 for Joel. How's this? Joel has said $20. Ange has gone for 11, like $10,000. Oh my God, how's that for a bit of a contrast? Collins at 100. Spankin is at 550. Gavin's at 1300. Bob is at, hang on, the screen just moved just way too quickly for me. 300. Mick is at 40. William's at 1500. Adzi is at 50. Natasha and the little dude is at 50 as well. Thomas is at 2300. Greg finally makes an appearance after all the cheap stuff went at $2. $2 each. I like that one. Moneybag Sullivan said 15. Carol's at 1500. Rob's at 10. Connie's at 920. Luke is at 1200. Christy is at $4.55. Oh, cheapest creepers. Buy like real dog food for that price. Jess is at 4,000. Jimmy said 500. Adrian, good to see Adrian joining the show tonight, is at 34. Adzi Beck said $2.70. Grant is at 75. Josh was at 40. And violating the doggies at 666 beastly bucks. Absolutely love it. And Dave Nolan is coming in at 111.38, which is very, very cool. All right, so there you go. 1983, Harper's Dog Chow. You're right. Who would put friggin' Star Wars cards in with dog food? What's the connection? So bizarre. There you go. And there's 12 of them, 12 in the set, one for each month of the year, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, so what do we reckon this went for? It went for a whopping, hold your hats, look at that, $6,000 effing dollars. How insane is that? What do you reckon, dude?
that's absolutely crazy, but I'm not surprised because I have seen the odd one of these cards sell separately between $600 and $1,000 a card. It is the rarest card set globally. They were only released in Australia. That is only the second set I've ever seen for sale in 40 years of collecting Star Wars.
So Jess has got it for 4,000, but Jess, you're gonna have to sell your body for an extra $2,000 to pay for him. So there you go. How insane is that? Oh, now we heard earlier what everybody said about. It's like, come on, man! It's like no freaking way. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, they're going on bloody. Look at this, they're going right off target. It's just insane. Hey, yeah, look at this. Oh, geez, people are just going completely losing their load over this one. So I agree. They may be rare, but your brain just can't comprehend that. If you show 12 cards to someone, said I paid $6,000 for these, there was only 2 bids as well, so clearly it's insane. But yes, amazing what you can find in dog food besides food and dogs. So there you go.
There you go.
All right,
and I think we've got one item left. Do we?
We do. It is this good old Bubble Fat makes a reappearance.
So this is one of my favorite sort of items if you collect prop replicas. This is a Boba Fett prop replica EFX helmet. So it's a green ink edition. There's only 34 out of 50 of them produced, so they're quite a rare item. This is a couple of years old. They're very hard to find. Beautiful piece. How much would you pay for that, Dags? You'd have that in your house, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I just sort of need to see it. I don't like the idea of seeing things online and making a decision based on that. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it does look good at face value. Although you could just respray it, make it all completely mint, and then it's the Mandalorian version of Boba Fett, if you will. So he's got different styles of helmets now. So there you go. All right, so where are we? All right, Thomas said $8,000. Bloody hell. Joel's at 7,800. Bob's at $5,000. Oh, Gavin, the money's coming out today. Gavin said $5,000 as well. Sorry, Spankin has said 7,000. Carol's at 9,600. No one has said anything cheap at all. Hang on. I'm going to good old Andrew's going for the $1 million. It'd be funny if we did put an eBay item in that actually did sell for $1 million. Mick has said 2,200. Adrian has said 8,000. There you go. Jimmy has said 6,500. Jess, I'd love to have this next to her bed. How good is that? You can interpret that any way you like. Moneybag Sullivan, speaking of things being next to Jess's bed, 8,500. Williams at 6,000. Collins at 6,500. Jess is at 9,000. I thought Jess put a price in earlier. Connie's at 11,000. Bloody hell. Natasha's 9,000. No one's going cheap. 5,500 from Grant. Christie's at 12,000. Luke's at 9,500. Rob's at 9,000. Joshua's at 2,500. Stuff at my firstborn. So Spanker's prepared to sell the kid for this. violating Boba Fett is the vial at 1,200, and Adzi, I can't even read that out, 13 grand. So there you go. Someone got the joke. I love it. Red card, what for? Anyway, so we move on. All right. Oh my God, we're so late with this show. All right, so Star Wars EFX. Boba Fett helmet, green ink. It's got green ink. Make of that what you will. It went for a whopping $15,000 freaking dollars. Bloody hell!
So that is a bit crazy. For $15,000, the EFX helmet came out. I think that one was about $700. So that was a good investment if you could get one at cost price when it originally was released. I agree, Joel. That's insane.
I'll tell you what's funny. So violating the helmet was at 1,200, but then Adzi coming with this ridiculous wacky price, nearly 13 grand. So he's still got to cough up over 1,000, but I think Adzi may actually get this one. So
it is, because the other one was 1,200 and that one's 12,800. So that's the closest, I think.
Yeah, exactly right. So there you go. How good is that? Yes, I love it. The only thing that's worth it, oh, God, cop that. Very, very good. All right, so that actually brings us to the end of the segment. Oh, my goodness. Now, before everybody but nicks off, we've got something we've got to announce for coming up in 2 weeks. So it's actually you can mention this if you want, our own version of a Halloween special. So what have we got, old son?
So we are broadcasting one extra episode on Halloween night. You get, 5 Rip It Off the Cards this month for the price of 4. It is the Blood Orgy in the House of Death, Rip It Off the Card Halloween special, broadcast in 2D. We are going to be looking at real haunted toys. We are going to be looking at Dags and my top favorite horror toy countdown, and of course the vial is going to violate Halloween night. He has got an extra big segment this Halloween special on Halloween costumes and cosplayers. So if you aren't doing trick-or-treating or anything else Halloween night, come and spend it with us and we will give you the terror that you are after.
I thought you were going to say we're going to whip out our Willies and Franks. I got that on the brain at the moment. I can't get rid of it. So, but anyway, yes, obviously it's going to be Sunday, October the 31st at 8 p.m. Make sure you're here. Doesn't matter that the lockdown is over and you can go out and party and hang out with all these dudes. Remember, you can only have 10 people in a household and they're going to be the double vax. But here, you don't have to worry about vaccinations. You don't have to worry about numbers. You can come and join us and it will be a whale of a time. So there you go. How good is that? And so you'll get to see us on the Wednesday, the Sunday, and the following Wednesday. That is like a triple dose of Aaron and me. It's like, that is just insane. How can you have too much? That's what you've got to ask yourself.
You can. You're going to have to go and have your Rip It Off the Card vax to, have that much exposure. You'll be violated through the screen with that much exposure. Yeah,
exactly right. So it's all going to be spooky and scary, and we're not just talking about us two. So there you go. Yes, you're right, Dave. The real Halloween, absolutely. Oh, here we go. The vial. Hang on. The vial is frothing as we speak. I hope it wasn't about the Willies and the Franks, because you certainly don't want to be frothing over that. So there you go. Franks and beans, exactly right. Oh my goodness gracious me. Joel's already booked his ticket. He'll be here. Absolutely awesome. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right. Now, we are so far behind time. It's not funny. We're going to run late tonight because this is our last show before the lockdown ends, and we don't expect anybody to turn up next week. So we're going to make the most of it while we can. And, of course, so don't everybody just nick off just yet, because last week we were talking about the good old X-Files, and we ran over time on that one, so we had to cut the show short. So we've come back tonight to finish it off, and we'll probably run over time again. So there you go. So what are we discussing, Mr. Aaron, about tonight?
First of all, good night, Luke. Thanks for staying for half the show.
Is Luke nicking off again, is he?
Yeah.
So it's become the weekly thing that Luke goes to bed. We're all going, good night, Luke. So there you go. Very, very cool. So you can think about the things that have been violated tonight in his dreams.
when eBay finishes, that's Luke's bedtime. So tonight we're doing our second part of the X-Files. This was all meant to be last week, but our show has blown out so long that we were able to cut it in half and make it a special 2-part X-File episode. Like when Scully is knocked out and put in the boot of a car and you have to wait the whole season to find out if she gets out or whatever. But I've added some extra bits in after we were discussing things last week. And one of the things that people found interesting was Gillian Anderson's appearance at Westfield, right at the height of the popularity of the X-Files during about series 3. Now, I found some information online, and 10,000 people turned up to see her at Westfield. Now, that is a pretty good fan gathering for any event. You know, if you go to your Armageddons or your Comic Cons, they get about 30,000 for a weekend over 2 days, and they might have 20 guests attracting people. Gillian Anderson got 10,000 people at Westfield, and they didn't know if the structure could hold so many people looking at her on stage. I went and didn't stay because if I was going to go, I wanted to be right down the front, and I got there at 6 a.m. and there was already hundreds of people, and I was like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. But you can see, particularly in that yellow article in the middle, there's the 3 levels of Westfield. You can see the stage level, then the first tier and the second tier, and it is just chockers with people all yelling, Gillian, Gillian, Gillian. She was apparently really freaked out about how X-Files went in Australia. And you can understand, because it took off in Australia, one of the first places in the world, which is quite surprising. What do you think about that, Dax?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, the timing was absolutely obviously perfect because the show was, as we discussed last week, in its absolute like zenith. It was like the thing to have, and it was the perfect time to bring it out. I mean, had she turned up to a convention, for example, now Pop Culture Expos didn't exist back in the 90s, but had she been to one, whoever had her out, he would have made an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
But the popularity was so good that, and because I actually think she actually had more of an appeal than say David would have. Because a lot of people were jumping on the whole thing of like, she's a strong female character and she's great in the show, and we were just really, and a lot of women would have really dialed into who she was. So I think that put all that together, and it was just a recipe for millions of people turning up.
It is interesting when you look at that slide. Most of them are young girls who have come to see her. So she really was an icon for young women. And she has said people come to her who have gone into, scientific and field, who are women, and say, you were the role model that made me do this.
Well, it's actually interesting because, her character came out long before, say, Xena and Buffy and all the rest of it. So you could argue on TV in a sci-fi way that she started this trend of strong female characters, and then it all just went on from there. And you are right, Ads. Yeah, he was in the mosh pit. Oh, well, there you go. Good stuff. So there you go. But yeah, that was the saga that occurred at the shopping centres back in the day.
The crazy thing about that, she had come out and she was going to be doing a signing in either Angus and Robertson or Colin Bookshop. And then when they realised how many people were turning up, they couldn't do it. They had to put her on stage in the middle of the centre. Can you imagine how annoyed you'd be if you were the Angus and Robertson Bookshop who finds out you're not going to sell your 200 books you thought you were going to sell because they're not going to be in-store signing anymore because security wouldn't let them do it. It was going to be a safety hazard. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
And Bob said she's aged well. Actually, she's got 2 accents depending on which country she's in. She can either sound Cockney or American, depending on. She's got one of those people who've got dual accents. So, but anyway, we don't want to do. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off because we don't want to do a big discussion about Gillian Anderson. We've got to move on, otherwise we'll never get. We're already behind time. We don't want to get way behind time. So this is actually what we're supposed to be talking about.
Collecting X-Files Part 2. For everyone who watched last week, we looked at some of the early memorabilia. We're ploughing through now with some of the other memorabilia that was available during the height of the series, and also in its later years, and also when it came back. So here we go. X-File trading cards. I don't know anyone who hasn't collected some form of trading cards, and you would know that it is always hard to get those last few cards. I collect usually by buying a box, and then you're guaranteed to get a set. X-Files was one of those 90s card sets that in the era they would have chase cards. So even if you bought a box, you weren't guaranteed on getting all the chase cards. And then, which really annoyed me, they had subsets, and the subsets just had a silver chrome title on the card instead of the regular title. They were a nice set. This was season 1 of the X-Files. It is full of really iconic pictures and behind the scenes images and sketches and drawings. It was a fantastically popular set. I remember back in the 90s when it came out, it was sort of that window where there were card shops, that sold all the different cards, and X-Files was one of those sets where people would go in, buy the whole box, and so they would become available and they would all be gone within a day. So they were a massively popular set of cards, which means now on the secondary market they're virtually worth nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think it also certainly helped that Gillian and Dave had, photographed really well together. So it was very complimentary, no matter which character you were looking at, or if you're looking at both of them. So, but yeah, right. Yeah, when this is in the time when trading cards were like a bit of a thing, and it was only natural that these were going to be massively successful. So yeah, very cool.
And the other thing the X-Files did, which a lot of cards, a lot of franchises tried in the 90s because of the popularity of Decipher's card collecting games, there was an X-Files collectible card game. My friend Rod isn't here at the moment, I don't think, or maybe he is, but we both had this growing up. And the trouble with a lot of these things, being the biggest nerd in my group, I would collect these things and I'd never find enough people who would actually want to play them with me. So I would collect the decks and learn the rules, and it was really hard if you didn't have anyone to play with, to actually learn the rules and how the gaming dynamics worked. But that's the X-Files card game, and on the left is the original one from the 90s, and then on the right they've also produced an X-Files version of a current board game that you can get. So the X-Files is still popular enough among fans that these things are still going and still available. I don't know if you ever got into the collectible board card games. They were a bugger to collect a set because they'd have different levels of rarity. You'd have the common cards, the uncommon cards, the rare cards, and the ultra rare cards. So you can guess what Scully and Mulder were. They were the ultra rare cards where there might only be one in every 5 boxes. So although they were a fun game, it was really hard if you were a collector to get the set. And usually the only way to get the set was buy a box, get all the base cards, the common, the uncommon, and the rare, and then go to a card shop and just bite the bullet and buy all the other ones at the price that they were worth. There was no cheap way of getting those sets. I don't know if the X-Files ones were nearly as popular as the Star Trek and the Star Wars ones, but they're still a really cool set. And I like the card games like that because they often give more information about the characters than a standard set of cards will give, where a standard set will just be a bit on each episode, but they actually have the characters and their backgrounds and things like that. So if you're really into a show, they're a cool set of cards that you can add to your collection.
Yeah, I didn't know they even did an X-Files set, so that was sort of news to me because, yeah, right at the time Star Trek started it, and then it all sort of went from there, and Star Wars just really took it to another level. But you are right, it was deliberately designed to encourage people to buy more cards or spend money on a card because that's what you needed to win the game. As it turned out, I only played ever one game of the Star Wars customizable card game. I won that game, and that means I've got a 100% success rate in terms of playing the game. I've never lost, so how good is that? And I'll never play again. We move on.
And of course, as I was saying, X-Files, even though it went away in popular culture for quite a while, it has always been lingering in the background with card collectors, and there's always sort of been an X-Files set and X-Files cards available. And I think this is maybe because X-Files might appeal to, I guess, more senior collectors, and they're the ones that sort of will stay with the franchise and go along with it. So even though it's not a franchise people go, oh, the X-Files, there's always comics and there's always cards. And here are some of the highlights of what's been available. So you've got autograph cards, and some of those go for an absolute fortune. I was looking to do an X-Files sort of eBay episode for the show, and the only things that were really interesting were like the Scully and Mulder signed cards, which were still going for, thousands of dollars. A lot of the other ones, though, if you weren't Scully or Mulder, your autograph card might get 99-cent bid with no one else bidding on it. It's quite funny. Chris Carter, the creator, is also one of the more popular cards, and that would be like pulling, I guess, a George Lucas signed card for an X-File fan if you got it. Below that, there's some hologram cards, which were sort of big in the 90s, and they were the sort of chase cards you could get. And one of the other things they do in card sets is art cards. So in the middle there, you can see randomly in different sets, there have been artist cards where like a comic book artist or a illustrator will get the cards, illustrate like a whole bunch of them, and then they randomly put them in boxes. So if collecting cards is your bag, the X-Files has some fantastic sets. And one of the things that I even saw, and I don't collect cards anymore, and I go, oh, that would be a good set. They released a set called The Monster of the Week, which I think is a fantastic set of cards because every single card is going to be one of the monsters from the X-Files. So I liked the Monster of the Week shows, and even I was like, oh, I might get online and see if I can find that set. So there's a good range of X-Files cards out there if you collect X-Files.
Ange said way back here that he had all the trading cards from the X-Files. So a few people did certainly collect them, and probably in a lot of cases have still hung onto them, which is very, very, very cool. And Thomas said he's actually never even seen these before. So it's one of the things about this particular show. We're here to entertain and educate all at the same time. So which is very, very cool. Now, the most famous line, of course, for many like pop culture thing is, have we got a video? And as it turned out, there were videos.
Yes. And X-Files, again, is one of those franchises that was shocked by how popular it was so early. So one of the first things that got produced was videos. And because they really didn't know, how they were going to release them or how it was going to be done, it's really a hodgepodge of videos. They didn't do seasons at first. They did like themes. So they released the first episode, and then they decided to sort of just release the umbrella theme or the story arc for the season episode. So if you collected the first lot, you got maybe about 6 episodes over the first series, and then they decided they're going to release all of them, and they went back and you had to buy the same episodes again. One of the smart things the X-Files did, they'd release videos in Australia that hadn't been released on TV. So there is the series cliffhanger for series 2, which is like Paperclip and that story arc. They showed the cliffhanger here, and then smartly it turned up the resolution and the next 3 episodes on video. You couldn't rent, you had to go and buy them from Kmart. So I thought that was quite genius. But here, down the bottom there, you can see now that the cigarette smoking man is walking through a warehouse, and we thought it was alien and hidden conspiracy stuff, but it's actually his video library collection, because there is that many versions of different X-File collectible video sets from different countries in the world. You would probably need a room to be able to fill it up if you wanted to collect all of them.
So Williams made it. We mentioned this last week. Excuse me. That X-Files, because he watched it because it was inspired by Kolchak the Night Stalker, a show from the 70s, and that's completely true. For those who've never seen Kolchak the Night Stalker with Darren McGavin, an absolutely fantastic show. The only thing that irks me about these particular pictures, if you look at this poster here, they've actually flipped the image around, so David and Gillian are actually backwards to how they should be normally, and it's really annoying when they do that. So they've obviously done that because they wanted David on the left and Gillian on the right, but the picture on this side, they've actually around the correct orientation. So kind of annoying when they do that in promotions. But yeah, very, very cool.
And here are some of the different releases in Australia and from around the world. I like the original British release, which is in the bottom centre, sort of there with the X-ray and DNA strands. They kind of went with this really sort of, I guess, artistic way of representing the X-File episodes. One of the annoying things, and Dags is circling them there, the X-Files went for 9 seasons originally, which they brought out the first 7 on video, and then they replaced with DVDs. So you couldn't get the entire set on video, which is a bit disappointing if you put a lot of money into it. What this also meant was they were one of the first series to sort of be dumped into op shops when fans upgraded to the DVD versions. And still now you can go into op shops and find a lot of the X-File DVDs super cheap, because obviously there were, thousands and thousands of them sold, and a lot of them ended up in charity stores. Something I find really interesting at the top left there, there is a artist on Etsy and an eBay, and they take videos and they turn them into night lights. So if you have a favorite video that you don't play anymore, you can replace it with like a video night light. And I found he's done a whole range of X-File ones. And of course, the lights inside them are green, because everybody knows spooky green lights are what goes with the X-Files. So if you're a bit of a video collector, you can find a lot of variation with the X-Files sets around the world. And you can see there's a couple of Japanese editions there that I've slipped in. And there was also a video version of the X-File trivia game, which is one of those novelty games from the 90s. There was a Star Trek one with a Klingon, and there's been a Star Wars one. But they actually did a video version of the X-Files video game. And I've never actually played that one, even though I've owned it. So that's an interesting little piece of 90s nostalgia, which they just don't make anymore.
With the videotape that's made as a light, I like how you said, if you got a videotape where you don't watch anymore, that'd be replays of this particular show. So I can understand that. With English videotapes, they were highly sought after back in the day, especially in the 90s, because they had the best quality out of everybody. And the problem was that importing videotapes from England was a very expensive business, and most people actually had to get them through Minotaur, especially in Victoria. And so you're looking at like 80 or 90 bucks a tape, but the quality was worth it. And a lot of people really dialed into it back then. So English videos, they were in high demand if you were prepared to cop up the dollars, I reckon.
Yeah, I feel that pain.
And of course, what happened to all of them? Most of them all got thrown out, but that's another story. We've actually got video episodes discussing that on a videotape that no one's ever going to watch. We move on.
Now, here's something cool. The X-Files was picked up as a franchise from McFarlane Toys, and McFarlane Toys have done a broad range of action figures and toys. I think most people would know McFarlane as a comic book artist, and he wanted to make toys. So he got into comic books to sort of raise the capital to open a toy company. And because he did that, he has had a lot of integrity with the figures he's released. So a lot of what he released are a lot more accurate than other toy companies. The X-Files action figures were actually a milestone action figure for me. Now when you go into a shop and you see action figures, they all look like the actors. There was a point before, the 90s where action figures were just action figures. They didn't look like the characters. I mean, we all grew up with Star Wars, and, they don't look like Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher. They're just a rough approximation. The X-Files was the first set of toys I saw on the shelf, and I saw them in Alternate Worlds in Camberwell, and I go, wow, that looks like Gillian Anderson. That looks like David Duchovny. They are actually doing figures to that level of accuracy that blew my mind. And they came out for the X-Files movie, Fight the Future. And now it's funny because a lot of the toys from that era that were absolutely awesome and looked so spot on at the time, because everything's got to that level and better, you look at them now and go, oh, they're okay. But at the time, they were absolutely amazing. Do you remember thinking that, Dags, or seeing them when they came out, or not impressed?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe it wasn't just because the character looked like the actual actor, but it was the way it was presented and the way it was displayed. And when something is new and unique like that, you just automatically go, that is just like a step above everybody else. From from the original Star Wars action figures, suddenly you got really, really, really cool figures that you think, oh, whoever's produced these, and yes. It is. It's not Seth MacFarlane, it's Todd McFarlane. The quality's outstanding, and as a result, you just gravitate towards it. But then other companies realize, oh yeah, we've got to step our game up. And of course, once they also realize adult collectors are buying these things, not children anymore, and that was the big shift in the mindset that we've discussed in the show before. How companies said, oh no, adults are prepared to spend money on good quality stuff, things that never existed prior to that. Well, then it all just took off, and here we are today. And speaking of things being here we are today, here's this.
So it's really interesting. That's the first wave of X-File action figures out of their packets on display. And what's very interesting, and it's the first time, and not many toy companies do this now anyway, the story of the X-Files movie was basically, if you got infected by the black oil, eventually you'd turn into an alien, one would gestate in you and you'd liquefy and die, and an alien had come out. Now, the alien bodies that you can see on the stretchers there are kind of made out of this jelly plastic material, which is fair enough. They look pretty cool and they have an alien embryo inside. If you get a real knife or a real scalpel, cut that body open, you can actually pull an alien toy out that is hidden inside the cadaver, which is a pretty cool Easter egg if you are someone who likes to cut up your toys just to see what's inside. I can just imagine that some psycho cuts up all these toys, nothing in this one, destroys all these toys for years and years, and then McFarlane releases one. He's like, this is what I was doing it for. There's an alien inside. So that's a really unique item from the X-File toy line. X-File toy line was one of the first toy lines to also include little dioramas in with the figures as well. So that was a bit of a novelty too.
Yeah, once you start cutting open your figures, you suddenly realise it's only got a single play sort of like moment. It's like once you've done it, you can't undo it.
So I've lumped this guy all together, kind of, because the Fluke Man from the episode Host, for some reason, he seems to be the most produced alien or monster out of the X-Files, and there's been statues and figures and busts and all different things of him. So this is a later figure, but it's actually quite a hard one to get. I've never seen this in person. I've only seen it online and thought a couple of times, that's cool, I should get it.
Yeah, I actually was able to. I found one of these just like the other day in a store, and I thought, oh, well, hey, isn't that a fluke? And I like this comment from Dave. Yeah, like the cadaver thing. Yeah, your Kinder Surprise X-File edition. Absolutely love it. So yes,
Yes.
but you don't want to give this to your other half and say, honey, when I look at this, it just reminds me of you.
So, yeah, that could get you in a bit of trouble. So the Fluke fan was a great design. Now, if we go to the next, this is really interesting. This was a very cool wave of figures, and it wasn't produced. Unfortunately, the X-Files wasn't selling well enough for this to go into production. And one of the things that was disappointing about the action figures was they did Scully and Mulder and a couple of others, but they really didn't go much further. And this would have been a great wave with Doggett and Skinner and Reyes in her first-person shooter avatar, which I think is a bit sexist of, like, they got the others in their FBI uniforms, and the one episode where she's kind of dressed up in bondage gear, they go, yeah, that's the action figure we're going to make of her. But they got really close to being produced, and I think the likeness of them is amazing, to the point where you look at Doggett and you think that's like the Terminator. He looks really close to the T-1000. So that's what we could have but wasn't produced.
Yeah, so you get the Doggett one, you just paint it all like chrome, and then bang, there's your T-1000. Put it in its own packet. People go, oh my God, that is awesome. Where'd you get that from? So I think that's what he said, the T-1000. Is it what you said? I thought you said the T-1000. So yeah.
I thought maybe not. So
maybe.
Yeah, T-1000, fantastic.
Yeah, and I do agree the Skinner one does actually look very, very cool. So yeah.
And these are the last sort of X-Files action figures that came out. They were for the event series that came out a couple of years ago. So they produced another Scully and Mulder. And again, you could get them as just the figures with a couple of accessories, or they went overboard and they did them with the entire sort of office with desks and chairs and mini posters and things like that. And they're actually quite hard to find around. They came and went really fast because I think there was a lot of nostalgia for the X-Files at the time. So there's not a lot of X-Files action figures, but what they brought out I think is all pretty high end and good. So if you're an X-Files fan, you can collect, the dozen that came out, and they're all good figures.
So maybe, Dave, maybe on the right track, they got a Terminator 2 T-1000 figure and repainted it as Doggett and remarketed it that way. So, yes, very, very cool. I love this shot over here where he looks like he's wearing the sunglasses. It's like, that's a cool looking dude. And it's like, yeah, I work for the FBI and I'm a cool puppy. So,
yes,
yeah, love it.
Do you know what it's not as cool as? It's not as cool as Soul David King.
Oh no, Soul David King. I mean Greg King.
Greg King.
Soul Greg. I actually knew David King. Soul Greg King. He's the cool. There is so many cool dudes in the world. Aaron is clearly second on the list, but Greg is now at the very top. Soul Greg King. So yes.
Now, these are action figures as well, but these are the Sideshow 12-inch action figures. When we've talked about Hot Toys and Sideshow before, where Hot Toys are kind of recognised as the industry's high standard, Sideshow are probably the second best in that they're pretty good. They're not always as accurate as Hot Toys, but with the X-Files, they produced quite a good range of figures, and of course they released a really good versions of Scully and Mulder, which what we can see here. And they came, accurate with guns, accessories, correct clothes, FBI badges, and all that kind of thing. Which, when you think about it, if you're releasing essentially dolls, they're kind of boring. Two people in suits, but because it's from the X-Files, it's actually very cool.
Now, I like this one from Carol. You haven't mentioned about the Ken and Barbie X-File dolls. Carol, I know, like, you're in a hurry to get there, but we're like a slow building up, like a volcanic explosion over in Iceland or something. It takes time for the lava to come down the mountain and for us to get to where we want to go to. So you just got to be a bit patient. I mean, the lockdown's finishing in 2 days. We'll get there before then, so don't worry about it. They're coming up. So yes, very, very cool.
Yeah. And this is more of the set where they actually released. Stunningly, they released more characters at this size than they have at action figure size. So you've got your Skinners and you've got your Doggetts and you've got Black. I've forgotten his name from Lance Hendrickson, who went on to the spin-off Millennium, who started in the X-Files. And then you've got Krycek. You've got different versions of Scully and Mulder as well, where you've got her in her autopsy gear and Mulder in different FBI costumes. And all of these came out in sort of those nice X-File display boxes. So it's quite a good line. And if you are an adult collector of the X-Files, they did pretty well, and they came out every couple of years for a decade. So they're still available on eBay. Some of them go for a bit. Most of them are pretty reasonably priced.
I've actually seen good old Krycek down here on a car number plate. So a long time ago. So there you go. How good is that? Here we go.
And here's what I was saying earlier about the difference between, X-Files Hot Toys and X-Files Sideshow. Now, these are all Sideshow, and there's different versions of the same figure, but just the hair and the paint job on them, you can see the ones on the left just don't look as good as the ones on the right. And it all is about little details. And they're both by Sideshow. They're both made by the same people, but you can see the Scully and Mulder in the center there are really good close likenesses to the actual actors and actresses, where the other ones aren't quite there. And what's funny is those middle ones came out first. The ones on the left were the second ones, which were the variants, and they weren't as nice as the first ones, which always sort of annoys me. What I do find interesting, and I think I've said this before, when you've got an older character and they've got more wear on their face, so more lines and more sort of uniqueness, the likeness always looks more, because artists can put in every single crease and every single scar. And the cigarette smoking man, I've got to say, that is a really, really good representation of that figure. And for a Sideshow figure, that's about the best you're going to get. I think that is a really good action figure of a secondary character from the show.
And of course, the irony being that in real life, the actor didn't actually smoke, and he was smoking herbal cigarettes, which was really quite interesting, because the amount of smoking he had to do was insane. Gavin said, "What's the weirdest X-Files merchandise ever made?" They actually produced a roll of sticky tape. What do you call it? The masking tape that Mulder sticks on the window, right, for the X, right? And they actually market it as X-Files. I'm trying not to smile because I'm bullshitting. X-Files sticky tape. And people say, "Oh my God, it's from the X-Files. This is the tape he uses to stick on the glass." Sorry, Gavin, I cracked up laughing through that. Aaron was onto it straight away. I got no idea, but I was just making that up. But I'll tell you what wasn't the weirdest thing that was ever produced. It was this, X-Files statues.
Well, they did a range of X-Files statues. And again, it's really interesting because they're in that period from the 90s before the likenesses of stuff really took off. And if you collect statues, any statue, you would know it was about, 2000 where it really became all about the detail and the likeness. But through the 90s, it was more about, I guess, the artistry. So it wasn't always about the most accurate. And I've seen from, Star Trek statue from that era, you're like, oh, gee, that's pretty bad. The X-Files is kind of in that middle section where there's sculpts that are good, but they're not spot on. They're a little bit artistic, but they're not bad either. And I think when you look at the busts, you can see the bronze versions of them look a lot better than when they've been painted up. Because you can, I guess, hide a lot more inaccuracies when you're just looking at a bronze version. Very hard to get really good likenesses of busts and statues back then.
What you needed for the Mulder one is for the head to go back, and there'd be a red switch, and you hit it, and then a panel from a wall would move aside. You could slide down to your X-Files cave. That's a Batman gag for those who didn't get it. So Aaron has asked about which is our favorite. Sorry, Thomas has asked about which is our favorite ep. If you've got an answer, keep it very, very short. I actually don't have one. I thought the whole show was really, really good, but nothing springs to mind. I haven't seen it for like 20 years. So what about you?
I love the Genie episode that he's talking about as a comedy episode. My favorite episode is EBE from series 1, where they finally find out about the conspiracy, who's good, who's bad, there are aliens and stuff like that, because it was a show that actually delivered on the promise rather than going, oh, it was all made up. And that sort of launched into series 2 with everyone going, oh, there are aliens, what's going to happen? So that was the show that hooked me. As a single episode, Ice, because it reminded me of The Thing. So that's my answer for those.
So you could have had, Mulder wakes up and he says, "Oh, it was all just the whole 6 seasons was just a dream." So there you go. Surely that hasn't been done in TV shows before. Let's move on.
So again, here's some of the other statues that were available. These are sort of more of the aliens. Again, you've got the cigarette smoking alien in the cage. You've got the host again, standing in sewerage. I think I mentioned last week one of the few times people have been asked to buy sewerage, and then you've got another one of the aliens from another episode there. So they made quite a range of statues to go with Scully and Mulder. And I think they're all really good. They're all really atmospheric and capture the episodes, what they're portraying.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Fluke Man in this is actually in your store at the moment. Is that right?
We have the Fluke Man and we have Scully and Mulder. And we actually sold the Scully and Mulder pops online today.
Oh, there you go. Once you pop, you can't stop because the pops are out there. So there you go. Very cool.
Let's just skip this
where's
one.
Carol when I need her? Carol, mate, you can just settle down because we've got them. See, we think of everything in this show. So
I was just going to say, look, we've already discussed this now. Move along. But no, Barbie and Ken as Scully and Mulder again, and they still do it now. But this was right at the beginning when Mattel started getting franchises and dressing Ken and Barbie up as Kirk and Uhura or Scully and Mulder or any other kind of thing that they thought might be able to sell more Barbie dolls. The interesting thing about this, they released pictures online of really nice versions, and I never found ones in the flesh that looked anything near as nice as the pictures they used in the promo versions online. So they did release Barbie Scully and they did release Mulder Ken. There you go, Carol. It's all for you. It's all for you.
So if anybody in the audience is hearing this massive sigh coming out from the extreme west of Victoria, that's Carol in front of her television going, we finally put them up. Yeah, you are right. Maybe when they produce the figures, and clearly when they're going to take the close-up photographs, they're going to really style the hair. But maybe in the transportation, the boxes getting chucked around everywhere. The hair tends to go everywhere, and I agree with you. In the boxes, they never look that good. So there you go. Now earlier we had, have you got a video? Now we've got, have you got a DVD?
Well, X-Files was one of the first series I remember coming out on DVD. And when DVD was a new medium, boy, were they expensive. And I was one of the suckers that collected them from the start. The first series of X-Files came out at $499, and I was dumb enough to buy it. And the second series I thought was a bargain because they cut it in half and it was only $249. By the time they got to the last series, they were $89. Now you can buy the entire 10 or 11 series in a box set for about $129. So they are one of those things that have really plummeted in value.
But they were such a good set when they came out because you opened them up and it was like a TARDIS. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and there's discs after disc after disc after disc, and you go, man, I've got the whole season in one hit. I mean, that was great. The packaging was fantastic. So yeah, well, it might have been a big. Hang on, it might have been a big investment at the time, but I think at the time it was a good investment.
It was a good investment, and I was lucky because I worked in a collectible store and I saw that videos were on the way out and DVDs were on the way in. I brought all my videos in and sold them when I could still get, $10 and $20 for them and put them towards the DVDs. But they are a really nice looking set of DVDs. The discs are really nice. They're well laid out. A lot of the early DVDs had trouble with too much happening in the menus and too much chasing around to get to what you wanted to see, because I think the authors thought the whole experience of DVD and the digital medium was a different experience from video. But you know what? You just want to put them in and play. That was that was what was good. Yeah, I
totally agree with you. Sometimes you would come across and go, "Oh, I want to play the," and then it's like he's got to zoom through all these different things, and you just go, "Just play." Freaking Buffy was a notoriously bad one for that. They'd be going through doors and corridors and hallways and go, "Just play the effing episode for crying out loud." So yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. So yeah, you're right, because it was such a new thing, and people thought, "Oh, let's be creative, let's make it an experience." It's like, we don't want an experience; we just want to watch it.
I just want to watch the episode. Yeah.
Totally agree with you. And as you said, the X-Files artwork has always been excellent. I like the fact that at least all the series of the DVDs were consistent in their style and design, regardless of whether people watch them anymore or like them or whatever. At least they looked, the quality was there, and they were a shitload cheaper than the Star Trek Next Generation box sets when they first came out, which were those plastic boxes for $200 a hit. Oh, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But Totally insane. Now, this is what when X-Files is a big thing, it's going to appear just about everywhere.
Yeah, so this is a selection of the media that was available when X-Files was big. And as Dags was saying, everywhere, I think Gillian Anderson got the lion's share of the spotlight, mainly because she could appear and appeal to a broader range of people than Mulder did. So you got her on the Sci-Fi magazines, you got her on the girly magazines, you got her on the TV Weeks and the sort of Woman's Day magazines, where David Duchovny was more of a Rolling Stone and just the sort of sci-fi genre magazines. X-Files was huge. I couldn't believe when I was looking at this, there was probably more X-File magazines and X-File media campaigns than there was for Star Wars. There is a lot of Star Wars, but Star Wars comes around when there's a movie every 3 years. This was constant for 9 years. Every time there was a new series, there was everything about the X-Files came back, and there was covers and pull-out posters. One of the things, if you look at the bottom there, you've got the Radio Times in the UK, and it's got the X-Files and Doctor Who. And at the time, that was really controversial because Doctor Who had gone away and it came back with a Paul McGann special, and British fans had a freaking meltdown because it didn't get the Radio Times cover. It was like shared with the X-Files that had the bigger version of the cover. So it really shows how popular the X-Files was, where it knocked Doctor Who comeback movie off the cover of Radio Times.
Two things I want to bring up. So Ads has just mentioned it, right, about the FHM thing. I love the concept. So down here, X-rated. How unbelievably clever is that? And of course, that would have sold shitloads. You know, got Gillian Anderson in underwear. It's X-rated. People would put two and two together, and those who'd never seen the show wouldn't twig on the fact that X-rated refers to X-Files. And I also remember when the Rolling Stones magazine came out with the two of them in bed together. That was like such a big thing because the characters never really sort of connected up romantically. Yes. And to see them in that image, that was like, I know for a fact that when this was available as a poster, people were actually trying to get hold of this poster. It was actually worth a lot of money. So that was a massive. Something
interesting about that Rolling Stones cover? It was an Australian cover, and it didn't come out in America. And the Australian Rolling Stones was in the newsagents for like $5, and it was going on eBay for about $100 because the Americans were freaking out that we had this picture and exclusive interview that they didn't have there. So that's the Australian magazine. And you were absolutely right. People wanted the big posters that advertised that magazine, and they were going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which is just crazy for something like that. But there you go. It's what's popular and what's in demand at the time.
Oh yeah, it was just like it just set the world on fire. It's like shit. Okay, you got the two characters who never romantically meet, and then suddenly we've got them in bed together, and it's like, oh my god, gotta buy that. So completely insane. But I mean, with X-Files, of course, there was a couple of spin-offs that came along the way, which some people may or may not know about.
Well, this is what I was talking about earlier. The character there, Frank Black, who was played by Lance Hendrickson, who's another legend in the sci-fi sort of community. His series Millennium started in the X-Files, and it was all to do with, Y2K. X-Files was in the 90s, so this was like a big deal at the time, and it was all about conspiracies and more demons and things like that. But it was a good show. It ran for a couple of years, and then the other show that was a spin-off was the Lone Gunman, which spun off and wasn't so successful. And the trouble with the Lone Gunman, it started on a bad footing, where the first episode of the Lone Gunman, the pilot, was filmed, and it was about terrorists hijacking a plane and knocking down the World Trade Center. And they filmed this, and the pilot was going to be shown, and then it actually happened. And they could not show the pilot. So the pilot of the Lone Gunman is available on the box set, but it was too topical and too bad taste for them to show it. So the Lone Gunman pilot wasn't shown, and they had to start with episode 2, which you can imagine is going to not really be the best start for a show. Most episodes, all the work and all the budget goes into the first one, and usually episode 2 is a bit of a cheaper episode. But you look at that, and that's pretty much all the Millennium and Lone Gunman merchandise right there. There was the DVDs and Blu-rays, of course, and there's a comic line for for both of them. And there was a T-shirt, a vintage one I found for Millennium, and a T-shirt I found for the Lone Gunman. And then there have been a couple of figures like we saw early, but there's really not much merchandise. But it's worth a mention just because it was a spin-off show and it was popular for its time, but not as popular as the parent show.
Christy was talking about the pictures earlier about saying David in a Women's Day magazine wearing nothing but a very large teacup. You know how he likes his tea strong. And Dave didn't know that there was a Lone Gunman show. I guess anything sounds like a good idea at the time. I don't think it would have really worked because it would have probably made the guys out to be like complete heroes and anti-heroes and all sort of stuff. Whereas in the show, in the X-Files, they were sort of in the background and they needed to just stay in the background, pop up from time to time, do their bit and then disappear again, not be the central focus. Because clearly that wasn't their focal point to be the central focus. So yeah,
it was an interesting show because the Lone Gunmen were the main characters, but they added two younger characters like a Scully and Mulder to support them. So it wasn't all about them, but it was more like the quirky episodes of the X-Files. So that's what it was, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So in hindsight, maybe it was one of those things that sounded good on paper, but in reality would never have lasted anyway. So, but anyway, so as always, we like to say, once you pop, you can't stop. And X-Files, of course, did a lot of popping.
And here we go. This is more modern merchandise, of course. So before Funko did their pops, they did Wacky Wobblers, and X-Files were some of the first Wacky Wobblers they got. And you can see in the bottom left corner there, they aren't too bad. They're good representations of Scully and Mulder. They came out and they were really popular. And then more recently, they brought out the X-Files pops, and they've only done 4 of them. There's Scully, Mulder, the cigarette smoking man, and the alien. And I was going to use this to plug that I had them in the shop if anyone's after them, but I sold them today. So there's timing for you. There is a prototype of the Mulder one there without any paint on it. And again, it goes to, I think with pops, a lot of them are your mind associating the character with the pop, because they really just look like blank, big-headed figures to me a lot of the time. But there you go. If you collect X-Files pops, you only have to collect 4 and you've got the set.
I love it. They do an alien. It's like, how bloody generic can you possibly get? So there you go.
Yes. And they did a series of the Titan vinyl figures. And it's interesting, we were talking about the Genie episode before. The guy in yellow at the top there is from that episode. So it was obviously someone's favorite. And what I did like about the Titan series, they did do some of the monsters from one-off episodes. So you've got the Fluke Man, but you've got like the peacocks, and you've got some of the other grotesque monsters that were in the series. And then you've got the Lone Gunman again, and some of the more popular characters from the X-Files. So they were a cool little series if you like those kind of things, that they were more modern, dealing off nostalgia. They didn't come out when the X-Files was originally around.
Yeah, exactly right.
And one of the sort of more modern phenomenons that we've had in recent years is Loot Crate. And Loot Crate is a box that turns up at your door once a month, full of nerd goodness. And they usually choose a different theme each month. So you might get a horror one or a sci-fi one, or if a movie comes out, you might get a Tron one or an Avengers one. They did some X-File ones, and they had some pretty cool merchandise. So you got an X-File themed crate, which had a T-shirt in. It had a flashlight, which I think is pretty cool, because one of the things that everyone loved about the X-Files was those massively bright lights that they had in the episodes in the dark. They had like FBI replica badges. One of the weirder things, they had X-Files stationery with pencils, and each pencil had a different catchphrase from the X-Files. And then they had some cards and wallets, and you can see you've got the I Want to Believe sort of famous picture there. So that's the Loot Crate that came. And I have to say, I'm pretty mad about this because my son had Loot Crate, and you can choose the size of T-shirt. And I said, I'm going to put in extra large because you're not going to wear anything from these. He's like, no, I want them in my size. I'll wear them all. Did he wear a single T-shirt on the subscription? Not one. So we got all these mint small size T-shirts that are no good to anyone. So that's my little Loot Crate aside.
So Andrew said X-Files flashlight. Yeah, not flashlight. Flashlight. Yeah, I was going to say Aaron's been watching too many American TV shows. He should have said torch. So there you go.
And then, of course, the X-Files came back. And what is interesting, when the X-Files came back, it was popular, and it was branded as a mini-series event or a series event. There are only 6 episodes in each season, I think, so it wasn't really full series. But what I did find interesting, and this happens with a lot of shows, the show came back and it was very popular, but none of the merchandise was pitched at the current show, like the pops and all of that. It was all from the previous episodes, because people who grew up in the 90s see the show and see it's back, but they want to collect, what they had as a kid and the Fluke Man and things like that, and not stuff from the current series. The current series was popular. It was popular enough that they did a series, they waited a year, and then they did a second series. I think they had introduced new characters into it to see if it was popular enough to spin off another series without Scully and Mulder, but that didn't happen. Scully and Mulder, like, they were back on the front of magazines, not as much as they originally were, but they still are quite a good couple, and it was a good series and a good comeback for people who are into the X-Files.
Yeah, sometimes there's that old thing about letting sleeping dogs lie, and you can never reclaim the same fame that you had, 20 years prior. But it was good that they did it, and some people enjoyed it. But once it was all done and dusted, people just said, "All right, move on to the next thing." So, which is what we're going to do.
So there you go. So there's our overview of X-Files merchandise, from the posters and cards to the DVDs and Blu-rays, to the Japanese comics, to action figures and posters. We've looked at everything for your X-File collection, and we hope you've enjoyed this nostalgic look at the show from the 90s and the revival from the last couple of years.
And just remember, all you want to do is collect. How good is that? Very, very cool. Good stuff. Hang on, I've just got to work out where I am. Very good. And guess what? We're finished right on time too. It's almost exactly 10 o'clock. I actually didn't think that was going to happen. I thought we were going to run right over again like we did last time. But
there you go.
All very good stuff.
How did we fit all of that into one episode? That's an X-File in itself.
See, when Aaron and I talk about X-Files, we're not talking about the TV show. We're talking about the X-Files, if you know what I mean. Come into Aaron's store when it eventually opens in a couple of weeks, and you two can check out our X's. It just sounds wrong on a lot of levels. It's late at night. It's 10 o'clock. What can I say? Fantastic. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, well, we're going to wrap up this episode. So hopefully you do all come back next week. There's only a handful of people watching right at the moment. So don't desert us just because the lockdown's finishing. And more importantly, I hope you certainly enjoyed the show. And as always, make sure you keep all your collectibles mint in box.
Or rip them off the card.
Exactly right. See you guys.
See ya. Here we go.
We're still going, dude. I'm waiting for you to say something. So there you go.
So we've got a little bonus that didn't really fit into the episode about UFOs. And it fits into the X-Files theme for tonight. And it's about real UFO experiences that I've had over my lifetime. So I've prepared a little card, a couple of cards we can show while I talk about some of the stories that that have happened to me.
Now, this is what you call an X-File and a half, right? So we'd finished the show, and we've actually gained 3 extra viewers after we've left. So how does that work? Unbelievable. But yes, bonus time. Oh my God. Now you when Aaron tells you these stories, you can think that he was smoking the wacky tobacco at the time, having too much Fluke Man action. But, dear. Yeah, exactly right, Thomas. More people are joining. What's going on with that? Now they're all bailing out. So, yes, very, very cool. Hang on. I need a Dags and action. See, I don't know if we should get an action figure for us and giving it to the Vial, because I mean, even I wouldn't want to be violated by the Vial.
The Vial violating me. No.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's get on with your stories, old son. So there we go.
Okay, so this is my high school. I went to Heathmont High, and on the last day of high school, we did the muck-up day. But what we actually did, we stayed at school overnight. And we were laying on the oval, and it was a summer night, and it was a clear night, and we were looking at the sky. And while I was laying there, and this is absolutely true, I said to my friends, look, you can see a satellite. And if you look at the night sky and you see a satellite there, it's almost like a star just slowly tracking across the night sky. And a couple of people who were laying down on the oval said, yeah, I can see it. And as I said, look, you can see a satellite, it stopped dead. So it was like watching a star slowly track across the sky, and then it stopped dead. And we're like, that's pretty weird, because it's obviously not a plane or a helicopter or anything like that. And I think there was about 3 of us that saw it. We were trying to point out what star it was to our other friends. And we were saying, no, it moved across, and then it's just stopped. And then as we were watching, the star went, just disappeared into space. So I don't know what that was, but you know, that is a UFO, because you can't tell me what that was. That it would look like a star, track across the night sky, stop for about 30 seconds, and was that we're trying to work out which one it is. It just go and gone. So that's pretty spooky, and that's a true story from the last day of school for me. So about 30 years ago. But that's true. But I've had a couple of other incidents that have happened.
Hang on. Yeah, we're going to get the first one first. So Thomas said, "Oh, that's eerie." I seriously want to add in some Twilight Zone music, but I didn't actually prepare it. And William, yes, we are still going because we don't have a life here, you know. So might as well sit back. We don't have an open fire, and we don't have some marshmallows to toast. But Aaron's engaging us in some spooky stories about UFOs, mate. So anyway, second story. What's the next one?
Second story, I was actually with a group of friends, and we were driving home from a church dance. And you can see that's the road I was driving home from. It's Canterbury Road. If anyone recognises that, it's in Ringwood. On the left is a golf course, and on the right is actually the Cadbury's factory. And we were travelling from the city, which is the top of the screen, to the bottom of the screen down Canterbury Road. And you can see that the golf course on the left is kind of in a little valley. You can't really see it as well in the photo, but it is down in the valley kind of thing. And because it was about 1 a.m. and it was night, the whole golf course you couldn't see because it was misty. So mist had gathered because there was a lake and a creek that goes through it. And as we were driving through, I said to my friends, that's really strange. It looked like there were 3 big orange lights in the mist in the golf course. So it looked like, you know, lights that they might have put in for, you know, night golf or something like that. And all of us said we didn't think there were lights there. And as we were saying that, and it took us about 5 minutes to drive down the road, so we were watching this, as we were saying that, the 3 lights came out of the top of the mist very, very slowly and just floated up into the sky. And again, I have no idea what that was. So it is a UFO, because it wasn't helicopters. It was before the time that everyone had drones. And they were big orbs of orange light. So that was the second time I saw a UFO, one on the last day of school, and then about a year later coming home from a church dance. There are 4 lights. It wasn't the Cardassians.
So what Aaron neglected to say in that story is when he said, "Oh, do you see those lights?" In reality, that story was, "Hey man, do you see those lights in the sky? they're just floating up, man. Oh yeah, check them out." Anyway, so yes, very, very cool. Good stuff. And the third thing, we got something very exciting. Is that right? Because we got to actually show a video of actual aliens.
Let me set this up. Let me set this up before we show it, though. I don't know if anyone knows about Steven Spielberg and his belief in aliens, but he believed in aliens for a long time, and then recently he's changed his mind and he said, "I don't believe in aliens, because with everyone who's got mobile phones in their hands, you know, there should be 10 times as many pictures of aliens and videos of aliens and stuff like that." Well, I've always remembered that. And even though it had been like 30 years between sightings, the next time I saw something interesting, I pulled out my mobile phone. Now, I don't know if people know Rod here, who works at the shop with me, but he was giving me a lift home from work. So this is just in the suburbs. And we were talking and everything. And I said to him, "Look, that's something really weird. We were stopped at the traffic lights, and across the traffic lights, we were at a T intersection, and about, 50 meters beyond that and about 50 meters up, there was a silver tube that looked about the size of a bus, but it was just a silver tube." And I thought it was one of those, you know, they put the blowers out the front of a shop and they sort of go like that. I thought, oh, maybe one of those has just come off and it's up in the sky. But it was sitting there and it was a silver tube. And as I'm saying to Rod, "Hey, do you see that? It split into 5. And as it split into 5, it then zoomed over the horizon. It looked like the horizon. You couldn't see it because there was a shop at the T intersection. And I thought, oh, that's really, really weird. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen, and I can't explain what it was, but it was gone. And Rod kept driving me home. But as we were driving home, in the distance, I said, Rod, I can see it again. Pull the car over because I want to film this. So we pulled over, and I've got to say, I could see it with my eye, but when I was filming it, I couldn't see it on my phone. So that's why it's so shaky, because I didn't know if I was capturing anything. And I filmed 3 videos, and it actually did turn up on 2 of them, but it is so far away. When I was looking at it, I could see what it was. On a camera phone, you can't really see it. But here is my very own X-file of UFOs that I filmed myself.
Yes, and of course it has been done in shaky cam, as all good X-File videos need to be. There is some audio with this apparently, and it's 2 different screens, okay?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anything can be seen on the camera, but there's a full-on daylight UFO. So in the bigger box, you can see where I've zoomed in a bit, you can actually see there is a light there. And it was a silver tube. Unfortunately, I wasn't closer and couldn't capture it any better. But
and you're a shit-ass photographer.
Well, I couldn't even see what I was filming. But I could see a silver tube with the naked eye. I couldn't see what I was filming. But you can see there's something there, and it's not a helicopter, it's not a plane, it's not a drone, it's not an air balloon or something like that. So when Spielberg says, "Oh, people don't capture any of these things on their phone," I jumped out of the car and I filmed it, and I actually captured something. I don't know what that was. And Rod, who sometimes joins in, he was there and saw it too, and he agrees he doesn't know what it was either. So there is our very own Australian X-Files, and that was the bonus for the Rip It Off the Card tonight. Thanks for staying with us, guys. I'm not crazy.
Well, Thomas has loved it, so he's got shivers and goosebumps, so it's sort of working for him. So yeah, they're very, very cool. Yes, good stuff. So insert your own doody-doo-doo music there. Absolutely fantastic. And yes, so have a good night, everybody, and we'll leave you all to it. So
good night, guys. Thanks for hanging around. See you.
Okay.